Welcome, thrill seekers of the macabre, to New Jersey estate of bustling cities, scenic shorelines, and amusement parks where laughter once rang out and joy filled the air. But beyond the lights, cotton candy, and cheerful rides, some parks hide darker stories. Tragic accidents, mysterious disappearances, and untimely deaths have left a lingering presence that refuses to fade. Amusement parks are meant to entertain, yet in New Jersey, many are haunted by memories of tragedy. Visitors report rides that move on their own, laughter echoing through empty corridors, and shadows darting through abandoned attractions. Some hear faint cries from long-forgotten corners. Others feel cold fingers brush their skin as they pass deserted stands. Tonight, we explore 25 haunted amusement parks in New Jersey with tragic pasts. From seaside boardwalks to abandoned thrill parks, each with stories of restless spirits, paranormal activity, and chilling encounters. Some events are documented, others whispered in local legend, but all share one eerie truth. In these parks, the past never lets go. Keep your courage strong, your senses sharp, and your flashlight ready. Because tonight, the spirits of New Jersey's haunted amusement parks are waiting. Action Park in Vernon Township, New Jersey, was once a place of thrill and danger. Billed as the world's most dangerous amusement park, opening its gates in the late 1970s, the park promised adrenaline-pumping rides, high-speed water slides, and attractions unlike any other. Yet, beneath the bright banners, laughter, and neon lights, the park earned a reputation for accidents, injuries, and even deaths. Over the years, these tragedies seemed to leave a lingering energy behind. And today, visitors and thrill seekers report that Action Park is haunted. Phantom screams echo across empty attractions, shadowy figures appear in old lifeguard uniforms, and the faint sound of splashing water rises from pools long drained and abandoned. Walking through the park, even in daylight, visitors often describe an unsettling feeling. The rusting metal of closed rides, broken pavement, and overgrown pathways seem to exude a quiet tension, as if the park itself remembers the chaos that once unfolded here. The air sometimes feels heavy, and a sudden chill can sweep over guests despite clear, warm weather. Rustling from trees, the creak of a metal swing in the breeze, or distant clanging noises often accompany these sensations. But when observers turn to investigate, nothing is visible. The abandoned park seems alive in subtle, unnerving ways, a monument to past thrills and past tragedies. Shadowy figures are among the most common reports. Many visitors claim to see apparitions in old lifeguard uniforms, standing near the entrances of rides or patrolling empty pools. Some are seen walking along the boardwalks or climbing staircases that lead to closed attractions, their forms indistinct yet unmistakably human. Occasionally, these figures appear to move purposefully, as if tending to rides or keeping watch over the park, only to vanish when approached. These spectral lifeguards seem tied to the park's history, their presence a lingering echo of a time when accidents were frequent and attention was always required to prevent disaster. Phantom screams and laughter are frequently reported throughout Action Park. Guests have described hearing the high-pitched screams of riders along empty slides, the echo of laughter drifting from abandoned arcade buildings, and the muffled cries of those who may have been hurt. These sounds often rise suddenly and vanish just as quickly, giving the sensation that the park is momentarily reliving the excitement and chaos of its operating days. Some visitors have reported hearing multiple voices at once, overlapping screams and laughter, creating a haunting auditory collage that is both thrilling and terrifying. The pools of Action Park, once central to its notoriety, are particularly eerie. Even when drained or fenced off, the faint sound of splashing water is sometimes heard, echoing across the concrete edges as if swimmers are still active in the empty basins. Occasionally, shadowy figures appear along the sides of the pools, climbing ladders or walking along edges, only to disappear into thin air. These experiences reinforce the idea that the park's energy is anchored to the places where accidents and excitement were most intense. Other rides and attractions also appear to hold spectral imprints. The roller coaster tracks, now rusting and silent, sometimes seem to hum with unseen motion. Observers have reported fleeting glimpses of riders on slides, their forms blurred and transparent, or the flash of lights on arcade machines that are no longer powered. Even the bumper cars are said to have moved on their own at times, as if invisible hands guided them through their old courses. These phenomena give the park a surreal and otherworldly quality, a place where the boundary between past and present is thin and permeable. Personal encounters are numerous. One visitor described walking past an abandoned waterslide when a figure in a lifeguard uniform appeared at the top, looking down silently before vanishing. Another recounted hearing laughter and shouting from an old arcade building, only to find it completely empty when she entered. Others have reported phantom splashes in pools, figures climbing fences, or the sensation of being touched by cold water without warning. These encounters are brief but vivid, leaving a lasting sense of awe, unease, and fascination for those who experience them. Even the park's wildlife and environment seem affected by the residual energy. The combination of decaying rides, empty pools, and nature reclaiming the space contributes to the eerie sensation that Action Park is still inhabited not by living visitors, but by echoes of its infamous past. Paranormal investigators have documented various unusual phenomena here. Audio equipment occasionally captures screams, laughter, or indistinct voices. Cameras sometimes detect fleeting figures or movements where no one is present. Many believe that the spirit of Action Park itself lingers, drawn to the excitement, fear, and tragedy that once defined it. As night falls, the park's haunting qualities intensify. Shadows stretch across rusting rides, pools reflect ghostly shapes, and the sound of phantom water splashes becomes more pronounced. Shadowy lifeguards appear along empty slides and boardwalks, and distant screams echo across the park. Occasional flickers of lights from old arcade buildings or broken attractions create a surreal, almost cinematic scene, giving the impression that the park has returned to life, but in spectral form. For those standing among the ruins at night, the energy of past thrills, accidents, and tragedies becomes palpable, as if the park itself refuses to sleep. Visitors leaving Action Park often describe a combination of fascination, fear, and wonder. The phantom screams, shadowy lifeguards, and ghostly splashes serve as reminders of the park's dark and dangerous history. The rusting rides, empty pools, and overgrown paths are more than relics. They are living echoes of excitement, chaos, and misfortune. For those who explore carefully and respectfully, Action Park offers an immersive connection to a place where human thrill and human tragedy intertwine. A site where the spirits of past visitors linger and the energy of the world's most dangerous amusement park continues to haunt its grounds. Casino Pier in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, is a place of sun-soaked memories and salty ocean air, but beneath its lively facade lies a darker, spectral side. This historic boardwalk amusement park has long been a popular destination for families and thrill-seekers, offering rides, games, and food stalls along the sandy shore. Yet the park also has a history marked by tragic accidents and misfortune, events that some believe left lingering energy in the area. Visitors and locals have reported ghostly apparitions, unexplained sounds, and eerie phenomena that suggest the spirits of past visitors or workers continue to haunt the pier. Phantom laughter, spectral figures on rides, and cries echoing near empty roller coaster tracks have become recurring tales for those brave enough to explore after hours or during quiet times. Walking along Casino Pier today, even during daylight hours, can be an unsettling experience. The creaking of old wooden planks, the rhythmic slap of waves against pilings, and the distant hum of the ocean combine with the occasional rustle of wind to create an atmosphere that feels both familiar and strangely charged. Visitors frequently describe sudden cold drafts that pass over them despite warm summer air, a sensation of being watched from unseen corners, or the inexplicable feeling that something is moving just outside the edge of their vision. The pier, alive with history and tragedy, seems to carry the memories of its past visitors, replaying echoes of fear, laughter, and chaos. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported sightings at Casino Pier. Many witnesses have claimed to see translucent forms riding the Ferris wheel at night, even when the ride is long closed and devoid of activity. Some figures appear seated in the cabins, motionless, yet unmistakably human, while others seem to wave or look out over the boardwalk. The Ferris wheel, a symbol of joy for many, becomes a chilling beacon when these apparitions appear, a ghostly reminder of past accidents or lost moments of thrill. The roller coaster tracks have their own reputation for supernatural activity. Visitors report hearing phantom screams or cries along the rails, often coinciding with the sensation of sudden, unexplained gusts of wind. Some have described the sound of wheels clattering along tracks where no cars are present, or the fleeting shadow of a figure running beside the coaster. These auditory and visual phenomena can create a disorienting experience, giving the impression that the ride has returned to life for a fleeting, spectral audience. Occasionally, lights on the coaster flicker inexplicably, reinforcing the eerie ambience and making it difficult to separate the past from the present. Laughter is another haunting element that many visitors have experienced. Echoes of children's laughter, the cheerful sounds of excited riders, and the familiar clamor of arcade games are sometimes heard drifting across empty spaces of the pier. The sounds often appear disembodied, rising and falling unpredictably, creating an atmosphere that is both joyful and unsettling. Some observers have noted that the laughter can sometimes be accompanied by fleeting glimpses of movement in nearby shadows, as if figures are passing quickly through the boardwalk, unseen yet undeniably present. The ghostly activity is not limited to rides alone. Food stalls, game booths, and even the pier's walkways have been reported as sites of paranormal phenomena. Figures have been seen walking among empty stalls, sometimes appearing to interact with objects before vanishing, or footsteps are heard approaching along the wooden planks with no one in sight. Faint music from old arcade machines or calliope tunes from forgotten attractions can sometimes be heard, creating an eerie, nostalgic soundscape that blends the familiar and the otherworldly. Misty nights and foggy conditions seem to heighten the haunting atmosphere. Low-lying fog drifting in from the ocean can obscure the edges of the boardwalk, giving the pier an ethereal quality. In this haze, figures are often glimpsed moving silently along rides or across open spaces, appearing and disappearing as if caught between worlds. Flickers of light along the Ferris wheel or through arcade windows further enhance the surreal effect, creating a scene that is both beautiful and unsettling. Personal encounters with the pier's spirits are often chillingly vivid. One visitor describes seeing a shadowy figure seated in a Ferris wheel cabin, staring out at the ocean before fading into the night. Another recounted hearing the sound of roller coaster wheels clattering across tracks, followed by a series of high-pitched screams, only to find the ride completely empty when they looked. Others have experienced sudden cold spots near food stalls, the sensation of being brushed by unseen hands, or the fleeting apparition of a figure running along the boardwalk before vanishing into the fog. These experiences are brief but leave a lasting impression of awe, fear, and curiosity. Even wildlife seems to react to the residual energy of the pier. Birds often scatter inexplicably near certain attractions. Dogs may growl at empty spaces, and small animals appear to avoid areas where apparitions are frequently reported. These subtle signs reinforce the sense that the pier is not merely a physical structure, but a place where memories, emotions, and energy from past events remain active. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous unusual phenomena at Casino Pier. Audio recordings have captured disembodied laughter, cries, and footsteps. Cameras and thermal imaging sometimes detect figures moving along rides or walkways where no one is present. Sudden drops in temperature, localized cold spots, and erratic behavior of electronic devices have also been reported. Many believe these occurrences indicate that the energy from past tragedies and excitement continues to resonate within the pier's structures. As night falls, Casino Pier transforms into a hauntingly surreal environment. Shadows stretch across rides, fog drifts between cabins and walkways, and cold gusts of wind sweep across the boardwalk. Ghostly figures appear on the Ferris wheel, Laughter and cries echo from empty attractions. And phantom roller coaster sounds rise and fade unpredictably. Occasional flickers of light in arcade buildings or along the pier create a dreamlike scene where the line between memory, history, and the present becomes blurred. For those present at these moments, the park's energy, the thrill, fear, and tragedy of past visitors feels palpable. A reminder that the pier is not just a place of amusement, but also a keeper of lingering spirits. Visitors leaving Casino Pier often describe a mixture of wonder, unease, and reverence. The Ferris wheel, roller coasters, and empty stalls are more than relics. They are living echoes of past excitement and sorrow. For those who explore carefully and respectfully, Casino Pier offers a connection to a history of joy and tragedy, a place where phantom laughter, shadowy figures, and unexplained sounds continue to haunt the boardwalk long after the lights have dimmed. Steel Pier in Atlantic City, New Jersey, has long been a centerpiece of seaside entertainment, a place where the sounds of laughter, carnival music, and crashing waves once blended into a lively spectacle of boardwalk life. For over a century, Steel Pier hosted amusement rides, arcades, restaurants, and performance stages, drawing crowds from across the region. Yet beneath the neon lights and festive atmosphere lies a quieter, more eerie side of its history. Visitors and locals have reported a range of paranormal phenomena, from shadowy carnival workers wandering the boardwalk to rides moving seemingly on their own. Ghostly music drifts from empty arcades, and disembodied voices have been heard calling out names, creating an unsettling sense that the pier is haunted by echoes of its past. Even during the day, walking along Steel Pier can feel strangely charged. The wooden planks creak underfoot, waves lap against the pilings below, and the wind often carries unexpected noises that seem to come from nowhere. Visitors frequently report sudden cold drafts, fleeting shadows moving at the edge of their vision, and the unnerving sensation of being watched. These experiences are subtle but persistent, leaving a lingering feeling that the pier holds memories that extend beyond its visible structures. The atmosphere is one of anticipation and unease, as though the energy of past workers, performers, and patrons still moves through the boardwalk. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena at Steel Pier. Many witnesses describe apparitions resembling carnival workers, dressed in vintage uniforms or staff attire, walking along the boardwalk, climbing stairs to old rides, or standing silently near attractions. Others appear stationary, watching passers-by with an almost human attention, only to dissolve when approached. These spectral workers seem tied to the pier's history, a lingering echo of the people who kept the boardwalk running for decades. Rides themselves are said to behave inexplicably. Ferris wheels, carousels, and small thrill rides have been reported moving or vibrating despite being powered down or officially closed. Some visitors have seen rides begin to rotate slowly, accompanied by the faint creak of metal and the smell of aged machinery, only to stop abruptly. Others report the sensation of unseen forces brushing against them as they pass, as if a phantom hand were guiding or touching the ride. These experiences contribute to the impression that Steel Pier is not simply abandoned after hours, but is alive with the residual energy of its vibrant past. Ghostly music is another hallmark of the pier's hauntings. Late at night, when the boardwalk is empty, visitors often hear the faint sound of calliope tunes, organ music, or carnival melodies drifting from the arcade or old performance areas. The music sometimes changes in tone or tempo, rising and falling in intensity, and seems to originate from multiple points simultaneously. Some witnesses have reported hearing the laughter of children accompanying the music, while others describe the eerie sensation of being surrounded by a carnival that exists only in spectral form. This auditory phenomenon heightens the surreal and haunting atmosphere, blending nostalgia with unease. Disembodied voices are frequently reported in connection with the pier's shadowy figures and phantom rides. Visitors claim to hear names called out, sometimes familiar, sometimes completely unknown, echoing across the boardwalk or from within empty buildings. Other times, commands or fragmented conversations are overheard, as if carnival workers are coordinating their activities in a world invisible to the living. The voices are often clear, yet ephemeral, fading suddenly and leaving a haunting silence in their wake. Some describe hearing urgent calls, while others report laughter or whispers that feel almost intimate, as if the pier itself is communicating with those present. Foggy or misty conditions amplify the haunting nature of Steel Pier. Low-lying fog rolling in from the Atlantic can obscure the boardwalk and rides, creating a dreamlike or nightmarish landscape. Within this haze, shadowy figures are sometimes glimpsed, moving silently along the walkways or ascending ride staircases. Flickering lights from empty arcades or closed attractions add to the surreal scene, creating an impression of movement and life in a space otherwise devoid of people. Observers often find it difficult to determine whether what they see is real, a trick of the fog, or a manifestation of lingering energy from the pier's past. Personal encounters with the pier's spirits are often vivid and unsettling. One visitor describes seeing a shadowy worker adjusting a ride's lever, only for it to vanish moments later, leaving the machinery untouched. Another recounted hearing a child's laughter, followed by the faint sound of footsteps running along the boardwalk, with no one in sight. Others have felt cold hands brush against them while walking past rides, heard phantom music from silent arcades, or seen shadowy figures disappear behind columns and staircases. These experiences are brief, yet leave a lasting impression, blending fear, curiosity, and a sense of connection to the pier's layered history. Even wildlife reacts to the residual energy on Steel Pier. Birds may scatter without cause, dogs may growl or shy away from empty areas, and small animals are occasionally observed behaving strangely near rides and attractions. These subtle signs suggest that the lingering presence is not solely perceptible to humans but may influence the environment in small but noticeable ways. Paranormal investigators have recorded unusual activity along the pier. Audio equipment has captured unexplained voices, music, and laughter. Cameras and thermal imaging sometimes detect figures moving in areas where no one is present. Sudden cold spots, inexplicable shadows, and erratic electronic behavior have also been documented. These phenomena indicate that the energy of the piers past the excitement, the accidents, the laughter, and the work of countless carnival employees remains active and perceptible to those who pay close attention. As night falls, Steel Pier becomes an even more spectral environment. Shadows stretch across rides and boardwalks. Fog drifts between empty attractions, and phantom music and laughter fill the air. Shadowy carnival workers appear along staircases and walkways. Rides move without power, and disembodied voices call out from nowhere. Occasional flickers of lights create an almost cinematic scene, blending nostalgia with the uncanny. For those present, the energy of past visitors, performers, and workers becomes tangible, leaving the impression that Steel Pier is more than a historic amusement park. It's a living archive of memories, joy, and lingering spirits. Visitors leaving Steel Pier often describe a mix of awe, unease, and fascination. The shadowy figures, phantom rides, and ghostly music serve as reminders that the pier's history is alive in ways both visible and unseen. For those who explore carefully, Steel Pier offers a connection to a layered past, where the excitement and tragedy of countless summers persist as echoes, waiting to be experienced once more by the living. Playland in Ocean County, New Jersey, was once a lively amusement park filled with laughter, music, and the thrill of rides spinning and twisting along the boardwalk. For decades, it drew families and thrill seekers, offering roller coasters, Ferris wheels, bumper cars, and game stalls along its sprawling grounds. However, a series of accidents, some fatal, ultimately led to its closure, leaving the park abandoned and its rides decaying in silence. Though the lights have long gone dark and the sounds of laughter have faded, many believe that Playland did not close entirely. Instead, visitors and local explorers report that the spirits of former staff and guests linger, haunting the grounds and leaving a palpable sense of unease for those who dare to wander its empty paths. Phantom footsteps echo through empty hallways, Cold drafts sweep across rusting rides, and lights flicker inexplicably, suggesting that Playland's energy is far from dormant. Even during daylight hours, the atmosphere of Playland can feel heavy and unsettling. The sound of the wind through empty structures carries an unnatural quality, sometimes resembling distant laughter or the faint ringing of arcade machines. Visitors frequently report feeling as if they are being watched, a sensation that grows stronger in the shadows of closed attractions and overgrown pathways. Rusted metal creaks underfoot, and the remains of rides groan with the occasional gust of wind, giving the impression that the park is alive in its own eerie way. The abandoned buildings and rides serve as silent witnesses to the park's history. And for some, the sense of the past pressing against the present is almost tangible. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena at Playland. Witnesses describe indistinct shapes moving along the edges of rides, appearing briefly in hallways, or standing silently near the entrances of attractions. These figures often resemble former staff members in faded uniforms, tending to rides or walking the grounds as if performing duties long forgotten. Some figures appear to watch visitors intently, their presence unsettling yet ephemeral, dissolving when approached. Others seem to be guests of the past, wandering the empty park in slow, deliberate movements as though trapped in a continuous loop of enjoyment and tragedy. Phantom footsteps are a frequent occurrence. Explorers recount hearing the distinct sounds of walking along wooden walkways, climbing staircases, or running across open spaces, even when no one else is present. The footsteps sometimes move in patterns, approaching and receding as if multiple entities are interacting invisibly. These sounds are often accompanied by the occasional creak of a ride or the rustle of leaves, further amplifying the sense that the park is not as empty as it appears. Some visitors have reported chasing the sounds to find no one there, leaving only a lingering tension in their wake. Lights flickering or turning on and off without cause are another hallmark of Playland's hauntings. Even in areas where electricity has long been cut, visitors sometimes report seeing faint glows from arcade machines, ride indicators, or control panels. The lights appear briefly, casting moving shadows along walls or across floors, and then vanish just as suddenly. These occurrences create a surreal and disorienting environment, reinforcing the feeling that the park exists partially in another realm, a place where time and reality are not entirely fixed. Cold drafts are often reported throughout the park, particularly near rides and enclosed structures. Visitors describe sudden drops in temperature, sometimes accompanied by a sense of being touched or brushed by invisible hands. These chills often coincide with sightings of shadowy figures or unexplained noises, as if the energy of the past is brushing against the present. Even in warm weather, certain areas of the park seem perpetually cold, a reminder of the lingering presence of those who once walked its paths. Sounds of laughter, screams, or voices are reported frequently as well. Some explorers hear the echoes of children playing near empty rides, adults cheering or shouting, or fragmented conversations drifting from abandoned game stalls. These auditory experiences often appear randomly and fade as quickly as they arrive, leaving an impression of a park momentarily coming alive before returning to silence. Occasionally, these sounds are accompanied by the sensation of movement in peripheral vision, reinforcing the impression that Playland is haunted by both joy and tragedy from its past. Personal encounters at Playland are often vivid and unsettling. One visitor described walking past the Ferris wheel when a figure appeared briefly in one of the cabins, staring silently before vanishing. Another recounted climbing the stairs of a roller coaster and feeling a sudden cold brush against their arm, followed by the faint sound of laughter from the track below. Others have experienced footsteps behind them, lights flickering in abandoned arcade rooms, or the feeling of being followed by unseen presences. These experiences are brief but leave lasting impressions, a combination of fear, fascination, and awe at the energy still residing in the park. The natural environment surrounding Playland also seems affected by the lingering spirits. Birds may scatter without cause, dogs react nervously to empty spaces, and plants sometimes appear disturbed in patterns that suggest movement through otherwise empty areas. The combination of decaying rides, abandoned buildings, and subtle environmental changes creates an atmosphere in which the living feel the persistent presence of the dead. Paranormal investigators have documented unusual activity throughout the grounds. Audio equipment captures faint voices, laughter, and footsteps that cannot be explained. Cameras and thermal imaging occasionally detect figures moving through spaces where no one is present. Sudden temperature drops and erratic behavior of flashlights or electronics have been reported. These phenomena suggest that Playland's history of accidents, joy, and loss has left a lasting imprint, one that remains active for anyone sensitive enough to notice it. As night falls, Playland transforms into a scene both haunting and mesmerizing. Shadows stretch across rusting rides, cold drafts move along walkways, and flickering lights create ghostly forms in the distance. Phantom footsteps echo, laughter drifts from empty areas, and shadowy figures appear momentarily before vanishing. For those standing on the grounds at this hour, the weight of the parks paced its energy, excitement, and tragedies palpable, making the abandoned structures feel alive in ways both eerie and captivating. Visitors leaving Playland often describe a mixture of awe, fear, and respect. The shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, flickering lights, and cold drafts serve as reminders that the park is more than abandoned machinery, and Broken Rides It is a repository of memories and energy. For those who explore carefully, Playland offers a connection to a past full of joy, tragedy, and lingering spirits, a place where the laughter and footsteps of those long gone continue to echo across empty grounds. Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson Township, New Jersey, has long been a destination for thrill seekers, families, and adrenaline enthusiasts. With its towering roller coasters, twisting rides, and sprawling attractions, it has earned a reputation as one of the premier amusement parks in the region. Yet beneath the laughter, excitement, and the roar of roller coasters lies a quieter, more sinister side. Visitors and even some staff members have reported strange occurrences throughout the park, particularly in areas where rides have been closed or left dormant. Phantom screams echo from empty roller coasters. Shadowy figures appear near rides that are no longer in operation, and sudden chills sweep across deserted paths. Lights flicker without explanation, giving the impression that the park is alive with more than just the energy of the living. Walking through the park during off hours or after closing can be an unsettling experience. Even in daylight, the creaking of abandoned rides supports the rustling of leaves, and the hum of distant machinery combine to create a subtle, eerie ambience. Guests often report a feeling of being watched, a sensation that grows stronger when passing by older rides or less frequented areas. The air seems heavier in these sections of the park, as though the weight of past excitement, fear, and accidents has left an indelible mark on the environment. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena at Six Flags Great Adventure. Witnesses describe blurred human shapes moving along deserted walkways, climbing staircases to inactive rides, or lingering near the entrances of roller coasters. Some figures appear to resemble former park staff, dressed in faded uniforms, performing their duties as if unaware of the modern world around them. Others seem to mimic guests, walking along paths or waiting near closed attractions, only to vanish when approached. These apparitions create the unsettling impression that the park continues to operate in some spectral form, replaying fragments of its past for those sensitive enough to notice. Phantom screams and cries are common experiences for visitors exploring the park's empty sections. Guests report hearing high-pitched screams, laughter, and even distressed shouts coming from roller coasters that are no longer in motion. These sounds often rise and fall unpredictably, creating the illusion that rides are still in operation or that unseen visitors are aboard. Some have described hearing multiple layers of sound simultaneously, as if the past excitement, fear, and chaos of the park were all converging in the present. These auditory phenomena leave a lasting impression, blending nostalgia, thrill, and unease. Ride lights flickering without power is another hallmark of the park's haunting. Staff members have reported seeing control panels light up, roller coaster lights blink, and ride indicators turn on, even when electricity is disconnected. These occurrences often coincide with other strange experiences, such as phantom footsteps, shadowy figures, or cold drafts. The flickering lights create fleeting glimpses of activity, giving the sense that the park momentarily returns to life in a spectral echo of its vibrant past. Cold spots are frequently reported along deserted paths and near inactive rides. Visitors describe sudden drops in temperature, often accompanied by a sensation of being touched or brushed by unseen presences. These chills can be brief but intense, creating a visceral reminder that the park is not entirely empty. Many of these experiences occur near areas associated with past accidents or incidents, suggesting a connection between residual energy and locations where heightened emotions or trauma once occurred. Some visitors have reported visual and auditory anomalies around the park's old attractions. Roller coaster tracks sometimes appear to shimmer or blur at the edges, giving the illusion of movement where none exists. The faint sound of wheels on rails, laughter, and cheering can be heard, as if the rides were operating in a parallel dimension. Even arcade areas and food stalls, long abandoned, are said to emit faint noises, clinking coins, game sounds, and murmurs of conversation despite being empty. These occurrences create a surreal environment where the boundary between past and present feels permeable, and visitors may feel as though they are witnessing echoes of previous park. Personal encounters with the supernatural at Six Flags Great Adventure are often vivid. One visitor described walking along a deserted path when a shadowy figure appeared near a roller coaster staircase, seemingly leaning on the railing before fading into darkness. Another recounted hearing a series of high-pitched screams and laughter from the empty Ferris wheel, with the cabins visibly swinging despite a lack of wind. Others have felt sudden cold brushes on their arms, seen lights flicker on control panels with no power, or heard footsteps approaching along empty walkways. These brief but striking experiences leave visitors with a lingering sense of awe, fear, and connection to the park's layered history. Even the park's environment seems attuned to its haunted reputation. Birds often scatter inexplicably, dogs may growl or shy away from empty paths, and wind can carry sounds that mimic human activity. Overgrown vegetation and rusting ride supports contribute to the eerie atmosphere, creating a sense that nature and the spectral energy of the park are intertwined. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous unusual events at Six Flags Great Adventure. Audio recordings have captured screams, laughter, and footsteps that cannot be explained. Cameras and thermal imaging devices sometimes detect figures moving through unoccupied areas. Sudden drops in temperature, cold spots, and erratic electronic behavior have been recorded, supporting the idea that the park's past energy continues to interact with the present. Many believe that the combination of accidents, high energy, and human emotion has left a lasting imprint on the park, creating conditions for residual hauntings. As night falls, the haunting atmosphere intensifies. Shadows stretch along roller coaster tracks and deserted pathways. Lights flicker in inactive rides, and the faint echo of screams and laughter drifts through the air. Shadowy figures appear at ride entrances or along the boardwalk, moving silently before vanishing. The combination of visual, auditory, and environmental phenomena makes the park feel alive in a ghostly, almost cinematic way. For those standing among the empty rides and paths at night, the lingering energy of past visitors, staff, and incidents becomes palpable, leaving a lasting impression that Six Flags Great Adventure is a place where excitement and tragedy continue to resonate long after the gates have closed. Visitors departing the park often describe a mixture of fear, fascination, and reverence. The shadowy figures, phantom screams, flickering lights, and sudden chills serve as reminders that the park is more than its rides and attractions. For those who explore with attention and respect, Six Flags Great Adventure offers a glimpse into a layered past, a place where thrill, accident, and lingering spirits continue to coexist in haunting harmony. Storybook Land in Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, has long been known as a charming, family-friendly amusement park, attracting children and parents with its whimsical rides, miniature attractions, and fairy tale-inspired landscapes. Bright colors, playful architecture, and gentle rides create an inviting environment where imagination and fun seem to come alive. Yet, beneath this cheerful exterior lies a quieter, more mysterious side of Storybook Land. Despite its reputation as a safe and joyful destination, numerous reports suggest that the park is also a haven for lingering spirits, echoes of past employees, visitors, and long-forgotten moments. Shadowy figures, phantom laughter, and moving objects have been reported by those who explore the park after hours or notice subtle, unexplained phenomena during the day. Walking through Storybook Land, even in the bright sunlight, some visitors describe an unusual stillness in certain sections. The gentle hum of rides and background music seems to ebb and swell in irregular ways, and the air occasionally feels heavier, as if holding memories of the past. Shadowy forms are often seen, moving just at the edge of vision, figures standing near rides, walking along pathways, or leaning over railings in places where no one is present. Some appear to wear uniforms reminiscent of former employees, while others resemble children or parents from decades past. These glimpses are fleeting, vanishing when approached, leaving only the memory of a presence that was never truly tangible. Shadowy figures are perhaps the most commonly reported phenomena at Storybook Land. Visitors have recounted seeing apparitions near old rides, sometimes appearing to perform tasks as if the park were still bustling with activity. One report describes a figure adjusting a ride's controls, only to vanish before anyone could reach them. Others have seen shadowy forms standing beside benches or gazing into the miniature towns, then disappearing when a closer look is attempted. These sightings often evoke a mix of curiosity and unease, as if the park itself is replaying fragments of its past in spectral form. Laughter is another frequently experienced haunting at Storybook Land. Though the park is designed for children, some visitors report hearing faint giggles, cheerful squeals, or even whispers of playful conversations in areas where no one is present. The laughter is often intermittent, rising and falling unexpectedly, and sometimes accompanied by the sensation of movement or a gentle brush in the air, as if a small hand passed by. This phantom joy is eerie in its incongruity, feels real and innocent, yet completely unexplainable, leaving those who hear it with a lingering sense of both nostalgia and unease. Objects appearing to move on their own are another hallmark of Storybook Land's reported paranormal activity. Rides occasionally jostle without power, swings sway gently, and small items near benches or stalls have been seen shifting positions mysteriously. Visitors describe seeing doors open or close silently, gates creak as though pushed by invisible hands, or miniature figurines in the themed towns slightly change their orientation. These subtle movements reinforce the feeling that the park is inhabited not only by memories, but also by residual energy, capable of interacting with the physical environment. Cold drafts are a frequent phenomenon throughout the park. Many explorers report sudden drops in temperature when passing certain rides or walking along empty pathways. These chills often coincide with sightings of shadowy figures or faint laughter, suggesting a link between the presence of spirits and environmental anomalies. Even on warm days, these cold spots can appear unexpectedly, heightening the sense that Storybook Land is a place where the past and present coexist in unusual ways. Some visitors have experienced auditory anomalies beyond laughter. Faint music from old attractions or hidden sound systems occasionally drifts across pathways, sometimes changing in tempo or volume without explanation. Footsteps echo along empty walkways, and distant voices can sometimes be heard conversing or calling names. These sounds, subtle yet distinct, create an eerie layering of the past over the present, giving the impression that the park's energy is not entirely bound by time. Personal encounters at Storybook Land can be both whimsical and unsettling. One visitor described approaching the miniature castle when a shadowy figure appeared near a window, leaning forward as if peering into the model town before fading into the air. Another recounted hearing a soft laugh near the carousel, accompanied by a fleeting sensation of being lightly touched on the shoulder, despite no one being nearby. Others have observed rides slowly moving without power, or doors opening on their own, leaving a lingering feeling of presence. These encounters, brief and often subtle, create a lasting impression of the park as a living archive of memories and energy. Even the park's environment seems influenced by these residual energies. Animals behave unpredictably in certain areas. Birds scatter abruptly, and dogs may growl or refuse to enter empty sections of the park. Plants near older rides or structures sometimes appear disturbed, as if trampled or shifted, without any clear cause. Combined with the faint sounds, moving objects, and shadowy figures, these subtle signs contribute to an overall atmosphere of quiet mystery. Paranormal investigators have documented unusual activity at Storybook Land. Audio devices have captured faint laughter, whispers, and footsteps that cannot be attributed to any visible source. Cameras and thermal imaging occasionally detect human-shaped figures moving through empty spaces, and sudden drops in temperature or cold drafts have been consistently noted. These phenomena suggest that the park's history, its daily life, moments of joy, and perhaps even the trauma of past accidents, has left a lasting mark, perceptible to those who explore carefully. At night, Storybook Land becomes particularly surreal. Shadows stretch across empty rides, swings sway gently in the moonlight, and faint music drifts across walkways. Shadowy figures appear near rides or along paths, moving silently before disappearing into the darkness. Phantom laughter and whispers fill the air, creating the sensation of an invisible crowd wandering the park. Lights occasionally flicker, casting moving shadows across the miniature towns, reinforcing the impression that the park exists partially in another realm. For those present after dark, the lingering energy of past visitors, employees, and guests is almost tangible, a living echo of the park's long history. Visitors leaving Storybook Land often describe a mix of wonder, nostalgia, and unease. The shadowy figures, phantom laughter, moving objects, and cold drafts serve as a reminder that the park is more than its rides and attractions. It is a repository of memories and energy. For those who approach with curiosity and respect, Storybook Land offers a unique connection to the past, a place where the joy, excitement, and lingering spirits of prior generations continue to echo across empty paths and miniature streets. Casino Pier Arcade in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, has long been a hub of excitement and entertainment along the boardwalk, drawing families, teens, and tourists to its bright lights, flashing machines, and endless rows of arcade games. The sounds of coins clinking, tickets printing, and electronic music filled the air for decades, creating an atmosphere of fun and friendly competition. Yet, beneath the cheerful noise and neon glow, there is a quieter, more mysterious side to the arcade. Numerous visitors and staff have reported strange, unexplained occurrences, suggesting that the energy of past patrons continues to linger. Ghostly apparitions, self-pressing buttons, moving tickets, and faint laughter are among the most commonly described phenomena, giving the arcade a reputation for being haunted by echoes of its own vibrant past. Even during the day, the arcade can feel subtly charged with an unseen presence. Walkways between machines sometimes feel tight and heavy, as though invisible bodies are threading their way among the rows of games. Visitors often report that their attention is drawn to certain machines, sensing a presence near them even when no one else is around. The familiar sounds of electronic chimes and game music occasionally fluctuate without cause, rising or fading abruptly, creating the unsettling impression that someone or something is actively playing along in the background. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported apparitions at Casino Pier Arcade. Witnesses often describe humanoid shapes standing near or hovering over arcade machines, their forms partially obscured by dim lighting or the glow of screens. Some figures appear to be patrons, clutching tickets or moving from one game to the next, while others resemble employees, operating games or observing players silently. These forms are fleeting, vanishing when approached or when the observer blinks, but their presence leaves a lasting impression of unseen activity in the otherwise empty arcade. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is arcade buttons pressing themselves. Visitors often recount approaching machines to find that the controls are moving on their own, as though an invisible hand is playing the game. Joysticks twitch, buttons to press, and tickets sometimes eject from machines without explanation. Some witnesses have watched in amazement as games begin automatically, their screens lighting up and coins seemingly registering, despite no one being present. These actions often appear purposeful, almost as if the spirits of past patrons are reenacting their favorite games, replaying moments of joy or competition from years gone by. Tickets moving or falling from machines is another hallmark of the arcade's haunting. Guests have reported seeing stacks of tickets slide, flutter, or appear to rise from dispensers without human interaction. In some cases, tickets have been observed moving along the floor as if guided by an invisible force, leaving a trail that disappears shortly thereafter. These phenomena are often accompanied by other sensory experiences, such as sudden temperature drops, fleeting shadows, or faint laughter, reinforcing the sense that the arcade is a space where the boundary between past and present is blurred. Laughter and faint voices are frequently heard in empty areas of the arcade. Visitors report hearing giggles, cheers, or shouts of excitement emanating from machines or corners where no one is present. Sometimes the laughter is high-pitched, reminiscent of children enjoying their games, while at other times it is more adult in tone, echoing the voices of past patrons or employees. These auditory experiences are unpredictable, often fading as quickly as they appear, leaving a chilling mix of nostalgia and unease. Cold drafts are another common occurrence. Many explorers describe sudden chills that sweep through the arcades, especially near older machines or sections that have been less frequented over the years. These cold spots can be brief but intense, sometimes coinciding with sightings of shadowy figures or the spontaneous movement of tickets and buttons. The chills often create the sensation of being brushed by an unseen presence, amplifying the eerie atmosphere and making visitors acutely aware that the arcade is not as empty as it seems. Visual anomalies are also reported by those who spend time in the arcade. Lights may flicker without explanation, screens can glow or flash in the absence of power, and reflections in glass panels sometimes reveal forms that disappear when looked at directly. Some visitors describe seeing spectral figures in the reflection of machines or windows, as though the arcade holds a mirrored layer of its past patrons moving alongside the present. These visual cues, combined with auditory and tactile experiences, create a multidimensional sense of haunting that feels both subtle and immersive. Personal encounters can be startling and unforgettable. One visitor described approaching a claw machine, only to see a shadowy figure standing behind the glass, reaching for a toy, then vanishing when they blinked. Another reported hearing laughter directly behind them while turning to find the area completely empty, only for a stack of tickets to suddenly flutter to the floor. Others have felt buttons press under their fingertips without touching them, or witnessed machines begin automatically in ways that defy explanation. These encounters leave a lasting impression, blending fear, fascination, and a sense of connection to the arcade's history. Even the arcade's physical environment seems to respond to the lingering energy. Machines may behave erratically, lights flicker unpredictably, and mechanical sounds occasionally echo from empty games. The flooring sometimes creaks under invisible footsteps, and the air feels heavier or colder in specific areas, particularly near the older, more frequently reported haunted machines. Combined, these subtle cues create an atmosphere in which the past seems ever-present, a layer of activity beneath the surface of everyday amusement. Paranormal investigations at Casino Pier Arcade have documented unusual activity. Audio recordings capture laughter, electronic beeps, and even fragments of conversation that cannot be attributed to any living person. Cameras and thermal imaging occasionally detect humanoid figures moving through empty sections of the arcade. Sudden cold spots, erratic lighting, and inexplicable mechanical activity have been recorded consistently over time, suggesting that the arcade's long history of visitors, excitement, and incidents has left a lasting imprint on its environment. As night falls, the arcade takes on an even more spectral quality. Shadows stretch across rows of machines, lights flicker unpredictably, and faint laughter drifts through empty aisles. Shadowy figures appear near games or along the walls, often disappearing when approached. Tickets slide across floors, buttons press on their own, and the soft hum of old machines fills the air. For those present, the energy of past patrons, staff, and countless moments of joy and excitement is tangible, creating an environment where the arcade seems to live on independently of the modern world. Visitors leaving Casino Pier Arcade often describe a mixture of awe, unease, and fascination. The ghostly apparitions, self-operating machines, moving tickets, and disembodied laughter serve as a reminder that the arcade is more than its games. It is a repository of memories and lingering energy. For those who explore carefully, Casino Pier Arcade offers a unique glimpse into the past, a place where the spirits of patrons and employees continue to replay the excitement, joy, and whimsy of countless afternoons along the boardwalk. Boatcraft Amusement Park in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, was once a bustling destination for families, thrill seekers, and children seeking adventure. Its colorful rides, games, and attractions created a lively atmosphere filled with laughter, music, and excitement. Over the years, however, after periods of decline and closure, the park has taken on a quieter, more eerie character. Visitors and locals report that Boatcraft harbors lingering spirits, echoes of past guests, and the residual energy of decades of fun, fear, and sometimes tragedy. Shadowy figures, flickering lights, phantom rides, and inexplicable sounds are frequently reported, making the park a hotspot for paranormal curiosity. Even during the day, the atmosphere along the park's deserted pathways can feel unsettling. The hum of nearby streets contrasts sharply with the eerie stillness within the park. Guests describe a sense of being watched as they walk along overgrown midways or past aging attractions. The air sometimes feels heavier, and shadows appear to move in ways that defy explanation. The environment itself seems to hold memories of the countless visitors who once laughed, screamed, and ran along the park's rides and games, leaving behind traces of their presence that are perceptible to those attuned to subtle energies. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena at Boatcraft. Witnesses often describe dark, human-like shapes darting along midways, climbing stairs to rides, or appearing briefly near the entrances to attractions. Some figures resemble children, their forms small and fleeting, while others seem adult in stature, perhaps former staff or parents from decades past. These apparitions rarely remain in one place for long. They move with purpose, sometimes appearing to interact with rides or games, only to vanish the moment they are noticed directly. The fleeting nature of these shadows contributes to the park's reputation as a place where the past continues to coexist with the present in ghostly echoes. Rides moving slightly overnight or when the park is closed is another commonly reported occurrence. Swinging rides may sway gently, carousel horses rock back and forth, and Ferris wheel cabins sometimes shift minutely, despite no wind or power. Witnesses often describe these movements as subtle yet unmistakable, giving the impression that invisible hands are operating the attractions. This activity is sometimes accompanied by faint creaks and groans, adding to the feeling that the park is alive, even in its abandoned or dormant state. Strange lights are a hallmark of Boatcraft's haunting. Visitors have reported seeing flickering glows emanating from ride control panels, the tops of roller coasters, or empty midway pathways. These lights appear randomly and without explanation, sometimes casting eerie shadows or illuminating areas in brief, ghostly bursts. Some explorers have described the lights as moving independently, tracing arcs along rides or midways, as if following invisible figures. These occurrences often coincide with other phenomena, such as shadowy sightings, phantom footsteps, or cold drafts, creating a multisensory experience that is difficult to ignore. Cold spots and sudden chills are frequently noted by those exploring the park. Guests report abrupt drops in temperature along walkways, near rides, or in enclosed structures, sometimes accompanied by the sensation of being brushed or touched by unseen hands. These cold drafts can be intense and fleeting, often occurring in conjunction with sightings of figures or the movement of rides and lights. The chills create a visceral awareness of the park's spectral inhabitants and reinforce the sense that Boatcraft is more than an abandoned amusement. Parkit is a repository of lingering energy. Auditory phenomena are also commonly reported. The faint sound of laughter, cheering, or conversation can be heard echoing through empty midways. Sometimes the echoes of rides can be heard, the grinding of gears, the whoosh of swings, or the creak of carousel horses, though no machines are operating. Some visitors have reported hearing children's giggles, the sound of coins clinking in arcade machines, or the distant cries of delight or distress. These sounds create a layering of past and present, a spectral replay of the park's active days that can be both enchanting and unnerving. Personal encounters at Boatcraft Amusement Park are often brief but striking. One witness described walking past a Ferris wheel when a small shadow darted across the base of the ride, vanishing moments later. Another recounted hearing a faint whistle of excitement near the carousel while feeling a sudden, cold brush against their arm. Others have noticed rides slowly rocking without power, flickering lights on empty midway pathways, or shadowy forms moving in peripheral vision. These encounters leave lasting impressions, blending fascination, unease, and a sense of connection to the park's layered history. The environment itself seems to respond to the lingering energy of the past. Rusting rides groan with minor movements in the wind. Overgrown vegetation sometimes shifts inexplicably, and animals like birds and dogs behave unpredictably near the park. Even the atmosphere along empty midways can feel charged, as if the collective energy of decades of visitors, laughter, and occasional accidents is still present, waiting to be perceived by the attentive observer. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous unexplained events at Boatcraft. Audio recordings capture faint laughter, footsteps, and the sounds of rides moving, while cameras and thermal imaging have occasionally detected human-shaped figures where no one is present. Sudden drops in temperature, flickering lights, and inexplicable mechanical activity have all been reported, suggesting that the park's history has left a lasting imprint on its environment. As night falls, Boatcraft transforms into an especially haunting landscape. Shadows stretch across midways and rides. Lights flicker in seemingly random patterns, and faint sounds drift through the park, as though the echoes of past visitors and staff have come alive. Shadowy figures appear near rides and along pathways, moving silently before disappearing into darkness. The combination of visual, auditory, and environmental phenomena creates the impression of a park that exists partially in another realm or place, where the energy of the past is tangible and persistent. Visitors leaving Boatcraft Amusement Park often describe a mixture of awe, nostalgia, and unease. The shadowy figures, moving rides, flickering lights, phantom sounds, and cold drafts serve as reminders that the park is more than its attractions. It is a living memory of decades of enjoyment, fear, and lingering spirits. For those who explore with curiosity and respect, Boatcraft offers a glimpse into the past, a place where the energy of former visitors and employees continues to echo across deserted midways and dormant rides, keeping the spirit of the park alive in ways both thrilling and unnerving. Jenkinson's Boardwalk in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, has long been a beloved destination for families and tourists, offering classic seaside attractions, arcades, rides, and a vibrant boardwalk culture. During the day, the laughter of children, the scent of salt air, and the sound of crashing waves create a lively and inviting atmosphere. However, as night falls and the crowds thin, many visitors report a strikingly different experience, one that hints at lingering presences from the boardwalk's storied past. Ghostly children, phantom cries, and shadowy figures are commonly reported, along with inexplicable sounds of rides operating in the dark, painting Jenkinson as a place where memories of joy and tragedy continue to linger long after the boardwalk empties. Even during daylight hours, some visitors describe an uncanny stillness along the boardwalk. Walkways that were bustling just moments before can feel oddly quiet and heavy, as though the weight of past experiences hangs in the air. Those who are sensitive to subtle energies sometimes report sensing the presence of unseen children running ahead or hearing faint giggles that cannot be traced to any nearby source. Shadowy forms are occasionally glimpsed out of the corner of the eye, moving quickly past attractions or along the edges of rides, only to vanish when looked at directly. These fleeting glimpses contribute to the boardwalk's reputation as a site rich in residual energy. One of the most commonly reported phenomena is the appearance of ghostly children near the carousel. Witnesses describe small, semi-transparent figures riding the carousel horses, laughing or calling out to each other, even when the ride is stationary. Some report seeing the shadows of children running alongside the carousel, pausing as if waiting for someone, and then disappearing into the empty boardwalk. These experiences evoke a mixture of nostalgia and unease, as though the boardwalk is replaying joyful moments from the past while simultaneously reminding observers of their ephemeral nature. Phantom cries and laughter are also frequently reported, especially during late-night hours. Visitors have recounted hearing the distant sounds of children calling, crying, or shouting in excitement along the beach and pier. The cries sometimes echo across empty stretches of sand, carried by the wind, creating an eerie sense that unseen figures are interacting with the environment. Laughter, often high-pitched and fleeting, has been reported near arcades and food stands, as if past patrons are revisiting moments of delight from decades past. These auditory phenomena are often sudden, rising and falling without warning, leaving a lasting impression on those who hear them. Shadowy figures roaming the deserted pier are another hallmark of Jenkinson's hauntings. Witnesses describe dark silhouettes walking along the boardwalk, appearing near railings, or lingering around the edges of rides. Some figures resemble adults, possibly past staff or parents, while others take the shape of children. These apparitions often move with deliberate purpose, walking along pathways or pausing near attractions before vanishing. The fleeting yet distinct presence of these figures reinforces the sensation that the boardwalk is alive with echoes of the past, replaying fragments of long-gone days in the lives of those who visit after dark. Visitors also report hearing rides operating when the park is closed. The faint hum of motors, the creak of carousel horses, and the soft clattering of coaster cars have been documented, even when all power has been shut off. These sounds are often accompanied by visual anomalies, flashing lights from ride panels or faint illumination along tracks, which suggest a ghostly replay of the boardwalk as most lively hours. Some explorers have reported watching rides appear to move on their own in subtle ways. A Ferris wheel cabin tilts, swings sway gently, or a carousel rotates slowly, all without explanation. These occurrences create a tangible sense that the energy of past patrons and staff remains embedded in the park, momentarily returning the boardwalk to its former vibrancy. Cold spots and sudden chills are frequently experienced along the pier and beach. Guests report feeling abrupt drops in temperature, especially near rides, benches, or arcades, often coinciding with other paranormal phenomena such as laughter, shadowy figures, or moving rides. Some describe the sensation of being brushed by unseen hands or having their hair lightly lifted by invisible currents. These sudden environmental changes contribute to the overall feeling of unease and serve as reminders that the boardwalk is not entirely empty, even when devoid of living visitors. Visual anomalies are another common occurrence. Flickering lights along empty arcades, shadows that seem to move independently of any known source, and glimpses of figures reflected in windows or glass panels all contribute to the surreal atmosphere. Some visitors have seen faint shapes climbing stairs, entering rides, or standing near the beach, only to vanish when approached. These visual phenomena, combined with the auditory and tactile experiences, create a multi-layered sense of haunting that is both subtle and immersive. Personal encounters can be brief but memorable. One visitor reported walking along the pier late at night when a faint giggle sounded directly behind them, yet when they turned, no one was there. Another recounted seeing small, shadowy figures riding the carousel horses, with the figures disappearing as they attempted to get closer. Others have felt sudden chills or heard the low hum of a ride starting up while the park was officially closed. These encounters leave a lasting impression, blending fear, fascination, and a sense of connection to the boardwalk's history. Even the natural environment seems intertwined with the boardwalk's spectral energy. Waves sometimes crash more loudly in response to unseen presences. Birds scatter without warning, and dogs may react nervously along deserted stretches of sand. The combination of environmental cues, shadowy figures, moving rides, and phantom sounds reinforces the impression that Jenkinson's Boardwalk is a place where the past persists in echoes and energy, subtly interacting with the present. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous strange occurrences at Jenkinson's Boardwalk. Audio recordings capture faint laughter, cries, and whispers, while cameras and thermal imaging occasionally detect human-shaped figures in areas that should be empty. Sudden temperature drops, erratic lighting, and unexplained ride activity have all been reported, suggesting that the energy of past visitors and staff has left a lasting imprint on the boardwalk. As night falls, the haunting atmosphere intensifies. Shadowy figures roam the empty pier, faint lights flicker along rides, and phantom laughter drifts across the sand. The carousel sometimes rotates slowly without power, and ghostly children appear and vanish within seconds. The combination of visual, auditory, and environmental phenomena creates an immersive, almost cinematic sense that the boardwalk is alive in a spectral echo of its former glory. Visitors leaving Jenkinson's Boardwalk often describe a mixture of nostalgia, wonder, and unease. The ghostly children, phantom cries, moving rides, shadowy figures, and flickering lights serve as a reminder that the boardwalk is more than just a place of entertainment. It is a repository of memories, energy, and lingering presences. For those who explore with curiosity and respect, Jenkinson's offers a glimpse into a world where past joy and unseen spirits continue to inhabit the piers, rides, and sandy shores long after the crowds have gone. Fantasy Island in Beach Haven, New Jersey, has long been a staple of summer fun. Along the Jersey shore, families flocked to its brightly colored rides, bustling midway in carnival games, seeking thrills and laughter under the sun. But behind the cheerful facade of spinning rides, flashing lights, and the scent of salt water and popcorn lies a darker, more unsettling history. Over the years, the park has seen numerous accidents, injuries, and even disappearances, leaving a mark that some say continues to linger in the form of restless spirits. Visitors and locals alike report phantom laughter, rides moving seemingly on their own, and shadowy figures glimpsed between the attractions, creating an atmosphere of eerie nostalgia and quiet dread. Even in the daytime, some visitors describe an unusual heaviness in the air. Walkways, once crowded with families, now feel oddly quiet, as though the memories of past patrons cling to the structures and grounds. Shadows seem to linger in corners and behind rides, fleeting glimpses that vanish when approached. The air carries a faint echo of laughter and excitement, subtle but distinct enough to make observers pause. Many who have explored the park report the feeling of being watched, as if unseen eyes are following their movements along the midway or near the rides. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported phenomena at Fantasy Island. Guests describe human-like silhouettes darting between attractions, standing silently near ride entrances, or appearing atop platforms and walkways. Some figures resemble children, small and fleeting, while others appear adult, perhaps the ghosts of staff or parents who once roamed the park. These apparitions move in a deliberate manner, sometimes interacting with rides or pause near machines, only to disappear when noticed directly. The brief but vivid nature of these encounters leaves visitors with an uneasy sense that the park is inhabited by echoes of its past. Rides moving without power are another hallmark of the haunting. Observers have reported swings rocking gently, Ferris wheel cabins tilting, and roller coaster cars shifting slightly. Even when all electricity is off, these movements are subtle yet unmistakable, creating the impression of invisible hands operating the rides. Many witnesses describe hearing the faint groan of metal, the creak of gears, or the soft hum of machinery accompanying these movements, suggesting a spectral replay of the park's once bustling activity. Phantom laughter is perhaps the most unsettling and frequently reported phenomenon. Visitors recount hearing faint giggles, shrieks of excitement, or even quiet chatter among the rides and midway. The sounds are often disembodied, coming from directions where no one is present, and sometimes overlap with the physical sensations of movement or shifts in temperature. The laughter can be high-pitched and childlike, echoing as if across time, or more adult, reminiscent of staff or older patrons long gone. The suddenness of these sounds, combined with their intangible source, amplifies the eerie atmosphere of the park. Cold spots and sudden chills frequently accompany these experiences. Guests report feeling abrupt drops in temperature near rides, midway pathways, or along boardwalks, sometimes coinciding with sightings of shadowy figures or moving rides. These chills often give the impression of being brushed by invisible hands or the presence of an unseen body nearby. Even on warm summer evenings, these cold drafts can be intense and unsettling, reinforcing the idea that the park is far from empty. Auditory anomalies extend beyond laughter. Some visitors hear phantom footsteps along empty walkways, the low hum of music from long-closed attractions, or whispers that seem to issue from rides themselves. Arcade machines occasionally emit sounds as if in use, and prize dispensers sometimes click or jingle despite no coins being inserted. These unexpected audio cues create a layered haunting, blending the memories of the park's vibrant past with the mysterious occurrences of the present. Visual anomalies are also widely reported. Flickering lights illuminate rides or signage with no apparent power source. Shadows appear to move independently of any solid object, and some observers claim to have glimpsed figures reflected in glass or mirrors that vanish when looked at directly. One visitor described seeing a small child standing on the Ferris wheel platform, staring out over the park before fading away. Others have noticed shadowy figures darting between the attractions or lingering near food stands and benches, leaving the sense that the park is still subtly inhabited. Personal encounters at Fantasy Island can be brief but memorable. One guest reported standing near the carousel when a shadowy figure of a child ran past, disappearing as they blinked. Another recounted hearing the sound of a roller coaster starting, feeling vibrations in the platform, yet seeing no one and no power running. Others have felt sudden cold drafts or brushes against their arms as they walked empty pathways or observed rides creaking in motion without cause. Each encounter leaves a lingering sense of wonder mixed with unease, as though the energy of the past has momentarily manifested in the present. Even the environment surrounding Fantasy Island seems affected by the lingering presence of past visitors. Birds scatter abruptly, dogs grow nervous, and the waves along the nearby shore sometimes crash with unusual force, as if responding to the park's unseen activity. Overgrown vegetation occasionally shifts inexplicably, particularly near rides and structures associated with past incidents. These subtle environmental cues reinforce the idea that the park is more than just a collection of rides. It is a repository of energy left behind by decades of human emotion, excitement, and tragedy. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous unexplained events at Fantasy Island. Audio recordings capture laughter, footsteps, and whispers when no one is present, while cameras and thermal imaging occasionally reveal human-shaped forms moving among the rides. Cold spots, flickering lights, and the inexplicable motion of rides have all been recorded, suggesting that the park's past has left a lasting, tangible imprint on its grounds. As night falls, the haunting atmosphere intensifies. Shadowy figures roam deserted midways, Rides creak or shift, and phantom laughter drifts across the park. Lights flicker unpredictably, and faint whispers mingle with the sounds of distant waves. The combination of visual, auditory, and environmental phenomena creates an immersive experience, as though Fantasy Island continues to exist partially in another realm or place where the energy of its past patrons is still present, replaying moments of joy and tragedy for those who are sensitive enough to notice. Visitors leaving Fantasy Island often describe a mix of nostalgia, awe, and unease. The shadowy figures, phantom laughter, moving rides, and flickering lights serve as reminders that the park is not merely a space of amusement. It is a living record of its history. For those who approach with curiosity and respect, Fantasy Island offers a glimpse into a world where memories, energy, and lingering spirits continue to inhabit the attractions long after the crowds have gone, ensuring that the park's legacy endures in ways both magical and unnerving. Palisades Amusement Park in Cliffside Park, New Jersey, was once a crown jewel of the Jersey Shore, drawing thousands of visitors to its rides, games, and scenic views atop the Palisades cliffs. From the mid-1900s, families flocked to the park to enjoy roller coasters, carousels, and a lively bandstand where music filled the air. But after the park's closure in 1971, the grounds fell silent, leaving behind rusting structures, overgrown pathways, and a lingering sense of history. Today, the site is often described as haunted, with visitors and paranormal enthusiasts reporting shadowy figures, ghostly music, and rides seemingly moving on their own, as though the energy of the park's vibrant past refuses to fade. Even in daylight, the atmosphere near the former park grounds can feel charged. Walkways and remains of old attractions seem to carry memories of the thousands of people who once crowded the park. Witnesses have described sudden chills along the cliffs, a feeling of being watched, and fleeting shadows darting past the corners of their eyes. These subtle sensations create a sense that the area is more than abandoned land. It is a space still echoing with the laughter, excitement, and footsteps of those who visited decades ago. Shadowy figures are a common report among visitors exploring the area. Many describe seeing humanoid silhouettes standing near old ride foundations or along the pathways where crowds once moved freely. Some of these figures resemble children, small and fleeting, perhaps echoing the countless young visitors who once ran through the park. Others appear adult, potentially former staff members tending to rides or watching over the crowds. These apparitions rarely linger long. They are often glimpsed from the periphery and vanish when approached directly, leaving a sense of sudden emptiness and the uncanny feeling that one has just missed someone entirely. Ghostly music from the old bandstand is another frequently reported phenomenon. Witnesses often describe faint strains of brass instruments, piano, or accordion drifting through the air, especially near the remains of the bandstand or along the cliff edges. Sometimes the music carries a hauntingly familiar melody, echoing tunes once played for dancing crowds. The sounds appear without source, rising and falling in volume, and often coincide with other paranormal experiences, such as fleeting shadows or the sensation of movement along empty paths. This spectral music contributes to the park's eerie charm, offering a haunting reminder of the joy and excitement that once filled the air. Rides appearing to move on their own are also widely reported. Observers have noted that old swing ride structures, carousels, and even roller coaster frames sometimes shift subtly, rocking as though someone invisible is operating them. These movements are usually slight but unmistakable, accompanied by creaks and groans of metal, giving the impression that the park's past patrons are momentarily returning to relive their favorite attractions. Visitors often report feeling a presence during these moments, as if unseen riders occupy the structures, replaying echoes of past enjoyment. Cold spots and sudden chills are commonly experienced along the park grounds. Many visitors report abrupt drops in temperature near old ride platforms, pathways, or cliff edges, sometimes coinciding with the appearance of shadowy figures or the faint sound of music. These chills can be sharp and sudden, creating the sensation of being brushed by an invisible hand or having unseen eyes upon them. Even in warm weather, these cold drafts stand out, reinforcing the notion that the site is not entirely empty. Auditory phenomena extend beyond music. Guests have reported phantom footsteps along empty pathways, the rustle of old ride machinery, and faint laughter drifting from areas where no one is present. Some have heard the sounds of coins dropping into games or carnival cries, even though the park has been closed for decades. These sounds combine with visual and tactile experiences, creating a multi-layered haunting that immerses visitors in the echoes of the park's past. Visual anomalies are also frequently noted, flickering lights along the remains of attractions, shadows moving independently of any discernible source, and occasional glimpses of figures and old photographs have all been reported. Some visitors claim that when reviewing pictures taken on the grounds, shadowy figures appear in images where no one was standing, adding to the sense that Palisades Amusement Park remains a space where past and present intertwine. Other witnesses describe seeing silhouettes on ride platforms or near the cliff edge, disappearing before they can be fully observed. Personal encounters at the former park can be startling. One visitor reported standing near the remains of a carousel when a shadowy figure appeared to mount a horse, vanishing moments later. Another recounted hearing faint music and the distant chatter of crowds while walking alone along the cliff, only to realize that the area was completely deserted. Others have felt cold breezes brush against them or observed slight movements of abandoned ride structures, creating a tangible sense that the park is still inhabited in some way by the echoes of its history. Even the surrounding environment seems affected by the park's lingering energy. Birds fly erratically, small animals behave nervously, and winds along the cliffs carry faint sounds that resemble whispers or distant music. Overgrown vegetation occasionally shifts as though brushed aside, and the creaking of metal structures sometimes coincides with moments of heightened paranormal activity. These subtle environmental cues reinforce the impression that Palisades is more than just an abandoned amusement park. It is a living memory, a place where the energy of decades past is still present. Paranormal investigators have recorded numerous unexplained events at Palisades Amusement Park. Audio recordings capture faint music, laughter, and footsteps. Thermal imaging occasionally reveals human-shaped forms where no one is present. Sudden cold spots, flickering lights, and the subtle movement of old rides have all been documented, suggesting that the park's history has left a tangible imprint that continues to interact with visitors. As night falls, the haunting becomes more pronounced. Shadowy figures roam the remnants of rides, ghostly music drifts from the bandstand, and abandoned attractions occasionally shift as though operated by invisible hands. Flickering lights and phantom sounds create an immersive atmosphere, as if the park itself has awakened for a brief moment to replay the joys, tragedies, and memories of decades gone by. Visitors leaving Palisades Amusement Park often describe a mix of awe, unease, and nostalgia. Shadowy figures, phantom music, moving rides, and visual anomalies serve as reminders that the park is more than a collection of old attractions. It is a repository of memories, energy, and lingering spirits. For those who explore respectfully, Palisades offers a glimpse into a world where the past continues to coexist with the present, keeping the spirit of the park alive long after its gates closed for the final time. Storybook Gardens in Bayonne, New Jersey, was once a beloved amusement park where families and children spent countless hours enjoying whimsical rides, colorful attractions, and the cheerful music that filled the air. From miniature carousels to playful train rides, the park offered a magical escape for young visitors, and laughter and excitement were constants throughout its grounds. But after the park closed, the cheerful atmosphere faded, leaving behind empty pathways, overgrown landscaping, and decaying attractions. Over the years, Storybook Gardens developed a reputation for being haunted. Visitors frequently report shadowy figures, unexplained laughter, and objects moving on their own, suggesting that the energy of past patrons continues to linger within the park. Even from the first step onto the grounds, many report a feeling of being watched. The pathways, now cracked and covered with weeds, stretch into the silent park, yet there is an unmistakable sense that someone or something is present. Shadows are often seen darting along the edges of vision, near rides, or between props, disappearing when directly observed. These fleeting glimpses create the impression that the park is still inhabited, not by people, but by the residual energy of its past patrons and staff. Unexplained laughter is among the most commonly reported phenomena. Guests often hear soft, high-pitched giggles and the distant chatter of children echoing through empty areas. The sounds seem to move unpredictably, sometimes coming from the carousel, the small train tracks, or near the edges of playground equipment. On certain occasions, the laughter can grow louder and more intense as visitors approach specific rides or props, only to fade again as they move past, leaving a lingering chill in the air. This auditory phenomenon gives the impression that the park is replaying memories of joy and activity frozen in time. Shadowy figures are also frequently reported. Guests describe dark, human-like shapes moving among the attractions, sometimes small and childlike, other times adult-sized, possibly representing former staff members. These apparitions often appear to move with intent but vanish when approached, leaving visitors with an eerie sense that the park is not entirely empty. Shadowy figures are often accompanied by other strange experiences, such as flickering lights, moving objects, or sudden cold drafts, reinforcing the haunting nature of the location. Objects moving on their own is another hallmark of Storybook Gardens hauntings. Ride signs, props, and benches sometimes shift slightly when no one is near, as if guided by invisible hands. Carousel animals or small ride vehicles may sway subtly, and playful props may seem to tilt or rock in place. These small but noticeable movements are unnerving, creating a sense that the park itself is alive with unseen activity and replaying moments of past amusement. Cold drafts are commonly reported by visitors, often appearing suddenly along pathways, near rides, or close to props, even on warm, sunny days. These inexplicable chills can send shivers down the spine. Some guests describe the sensation of invisible presences brushing past them or standing nearby, reinforcing the notion that Storybook Gardens remains inhabited by lingering spirits. The combination of cold spots, visual anomalies, and auditory disturbances creates an immersive and unsettling experience for those exploring the abandoned park. Auditory anomalies extend beyond laughter. Phantom footsteps echo along the empty pathways. Soft creaking noises come from old rides, and faint carnival music occasionally drifts across the grounds. Visitors have also reported whispers and murmurs that seem to originate from nowhere, as if the park's past patrons and staff are replaying fragments of conversation and activity long after the park has closed. These layered sensory experiences amplify the haunting, making it feel as though the park is momentarily alive again. Visual disturbances are a frequent occurrence. Shadows may move independently of any natural light. Fleeting shapes appear near rides or props, and reflections in puddles or windows sometimes reveal figures that vanish when looked at directly. Some visitors have reported seeing small, childlike apparitions playing near the train tracks or carousel, only to disappear moments later. These fleeting glimpses suggest that the energy of the park's past continues to exist in subtle but visible ways. Even brief encounters leave lasting impressions. One guest described hearing laughter while walking along the empty pathways, only to see a small shadow dart near a carousel horse before vanishing. Another reported noticing a ride sign tilt slightly as they passed, accompanied by a sudden cold draft. Such experiences reinforce the sense that Storybook Gardens is not simply abandoned, it is a repository of lingering memories and spirits, replaying fragments of life from the park's vibrant past. Visitors leaving Storybook Gardens often describe a mix of nostalgia, awe, and unease. Shadowy figures, unexplained laughter, moving objects, and sudden cold drafts serve as reminders that the park is more than its empty structures. It is a place where the joy, energy, and presence of past patrons and staff continue to linger. keeping storybook gardens alive in spectral form long after its closure. Fantasyland in North Brunswick, New Jersey, was once a lively destination filled with colorful rides, game stalls, and joyful visitors. Families flocked to the park to enjoy a carefree day of excitement, the air filled with laughter, the scent of cotton candy, and the sounds of spinning rides and carnival music. But after its closure, the energy of the park did not simply dissipate. Today, Fantasyland is widely regarded as haunted, with visitors reporting ghostly apparitions, phantom children's laughter, rides moving silently on their own, and shadowy forms gliding along the empty midway. The park seems to hold a lingering memory of its past, replaying fragments of joy and activity in spectral form for those who dare to explore it. Even in daylight, the abandoned park exudes an unsettling atmosphere. Pathways, once bustling with families, now lie overgrown, and empty rides sit silently against the backdrop of fading paint and rusting metal. Visitors often report a peculiar sense of being watched, as if unseen eyes follow their movements across the midway. Shadows appear at the edge of vision, darting quickly from ride to ride or along the perimeter of the park, only to vanish when looked at directly. These fleeting glimpses create a feeling that the park is far from empty and that the energy of past visitors remains embedded in the grounds. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at Fantasyland is the appearance of ghostly figures. Witnesses describe shadowy forms resembling children, running along pathways, climbing on rides, or pausing briefly near the carousel or Ferris wheel. Some figures appear adult, perhaps former staff members or parents, walking along the midway or standing near the entrances of attractions. These figures often move with purpose but vanish before they can be approached, leaving behind only a lingering impression of presence. The sudden sight of these apparitions is enough to unsettle even the most skeptical visitor, creating a feeling that the park's history is playing out in spectral fragments. Phantom children's laughter is another hallmark of the haunting. Visitors frequently report hearing giggles, shouts of delight, or playful squeals emanating from areas where no one is present. The laughter can vary from high-pitched and childlike to the softer tones of older children, echoing faintly across the deserted park. Often, these sounds appear without warning, rising and fading unpredictably. Many visitors note that the laughter seems to follow them, drifting from one ride or booth to another, as if the spirits of past patrons are still wandering the park, replaying moments of joy from decades past. Rides moving without human intervention are also widely reported. Witnesses have described carousel horses rocking, Ferris wheel cabins shifting slightly, and other attractions creaking as though in motion, despite there being no electricity or operational power. The sounds of gears turning, metal creaking, and subtle vibrations beneath the feet accompany these movements, lending credibility to the haunting experiences. The subtle motions often coincide with other phenomena, such as ghostly laughter or shadowy figures, reinforcing the impression that Fantasyland is momentarily alive with echoes of its former patrons. Cold spots and sudden chills are common throughout the park, even on warm days. Visitors frequently report abrupt drops in temperature near rides, midway pathways, or shaded garden areas. These sudden environmental changes contribute to the overall sense of unease, making it clear that the park is not entirely abandoned, and that residual energy or spirits may still inhabit its grounds. Auditory anomalies extend beyond laughter. Guests have reported phantom footsteps along empty walkways, the soft clinking of coins in defunct arcade machines, and the faint whirring or humming of idle rides. Some hear echoes of carnival music drifting faintly across the park, though no speakers are operating. These auditory experiences, often layered with visual sightings and tactile sensations, create a comprehensive sense of haunting that immerses visitors in the park's spectral past. Visual anomalies are also frequently observed: flickering lights on old ride panels, shadows moving independently of physical objects, and occasional glimpses of figures reflected in windows or mirrors contribute to the unsettling atmosphere. Some visitors have even seen ghostly forms atop rides, moving briefly before vanishing into the air. These fleeting visual cues, combined with the sounds of laughter and creaking rides, reinforce the impression that Fantasyland remains partially alive in the form of memories and lingering spirits. Personal encounters at Fantasyland often leave lasting impressions. One visitor described seeing a small child stepping off a carousel horse, only to vanish moments later. Another recounted hearing a faint roller coaster whistle, accompanied by vibrations beneath their feet, while walking the deserted midway. Others have noticed a subtle swaying of benches, signs, or ride components when no one is nearby. These moments, brief but vivid, leave visitors with a mixture of awe, nostalgia, and unease, as if they've glimpsed a living memory of the park replaying itself in the present. Even the surrounding environment seems influenced by the park's lingering energy. Birds sometimes scatter unexpectedly, dogs grow uneasy, and wind currents along pathways carry faint echoes of sounds or whispers. Vegetation near rides occasionally moves without visible cause, further reinforcing the sense that the park is alive in some unseen way. The combination of environmental, visual, and auditory phenomena contributes to the immersive experience of visiting Fantasyland after its closure, blurring the line between memory and haunting. Paranormal investigations have documented numerous unexplained events at Fantasyland. Audio recordings capture laughter, whispers, and phantom footsteps. Thermal imaging and night vision cameras occasionally reveal human-shaped forms moving among rides and walkways. Cold spots, flickering lights, and the subtle motion of structures have all been recorded, supporting claims that the park retains a spectral imprint of its past patrons. As night falls, the haunting atmosphere intensifies. Shadowy figures roam the empty midway, phantom laughter echoes across deserted paths, and rides occasionally shift as though operated by invisible hands. Flickering lights, cold drafts, and faint sounds combine to create an immersive, cinematic environment, as though Fantasyland is partially existing in a parallel realm where the energy of past visitors is still present. Visitors leaving Fantasyland often describe a combination of awe, unease, and nostalgia. The shadowy forms, phantom laughter, moving rides, and flickering lights serve as reminders that the park is more than an abandoned attraction. It is a repository of memories, energy, and lingering spirits. For those who explore with respect and curiosity, Fantasyland offers a glimpse into a world where the joy, excitement, and presence of the past continue to coexist with the present, keeping the park's spirit alive long after its gates have closed. Brighton Beach Amusement Park in Atlantic City, New Jersey, was once a vibrant destination where families and thrill-seekers flocked to enjoy rides, games, and the salty breeze off the Atlantic. For decades, the park buzzed with laughter, music, and excitement, its boardwalk filled with the sounds of carnival games, spinning rides, and the joyous shouts of children. However, since its closure, Brighton Beach has developed a reputation as a haunted site. Visitors frequently report phantom footsteps echoing along deserted boardwalks, ghostly carnival music drifting on the wind, and shadowy figures moving silently among the remains of attractions. Even decades after its gates closed, the park seems to hold on to the energy of its past, replaying fragments of life, laughter, and lingering presence for those who enter its quiet grounds. From the moment one approaches Brighton Beach, an unusual stillness often permeates the air. The pathways and boardwalks, once bustling with crowds, now lie silent and worn, yet the sensation of past activity lingers. Many visitors describe feeling as though unseen eyes are watching them, shadows flitting just beyond their field of vision. These fleeting glimpses create a chilling awareness that the park is not entirely empty, that the echoes of past patrons may still roam among the abandoned rides and faded attractions. Shadowy figures are among the most commonly reported paranormal occurrences. Guests have described humanoid shapes walking along the boardwalk, lingering near old ride foundations, or moving between attractions. Some figures appear small, resembling children, while others are larger and adult in form, perhaps former staff or visitors. These apparitions often appear for only a moment, vanishing when approached directly. leaving behind an unsettling impression of presence. Witnesses report that these figures sometimes seem to observe them, standing silently before fading into the shadows, reinforcing the sense that the park retains a lingering consciousness of its former life. Phantom footsteps are frequently reported, echoing across empty pathways, ride platforms, and boardwalk sections long abandoned. Visitors recount hearing footsteps approaching from behind, sometimes following for several moments before fading away entirely. The footsteps often accompany other phenomena, such as shadowy movements, flickering lights, or cold drafts, creating a multisensory experience that suggests the park is inhabited by the memories and energies of its past patrons. Ghostly carnival music is another hallmark of the haunting. Many visitors have reported faint strains of music drifting across the deserted park, melodies once played during the height of its operation. Sometimes it is the sound of a calliope or organ, other times the upbeat notes of a carousel or Ferris wheel tune. The music seems to emanate from no specific source, rising and fading unpredictably, often accompanied by the faint hum of ride machinery or distant laughter. The combination of sound and atmosphere creates an immersive experience, as though the park is replaying moments of joy from decades past. Physical sensations add another layer to the haunting. Cold drafts are common, with abrupt drops in temperature occurring along boardwalks, near ride platforms, or around overgrown gardens. Visitors often report feeling invisible hands brushing against them, a sensation that is both startling and disorienting. Even on warm days, these chills stand out, reinforcing the impression that unseen presences inhabit the park. The combination of auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena makes it clear that Brighton Beach's past has left a lasting, tangible imprint on the location. Objects sometimes appear to move on their own. Small props, signs, or remnants of rides may shift slightly, rock, or tilt without explanation. Some visitors report seeing doors creak open and close, or benches sway subtly as though brushed by invisible hands. These movements are generally subtle, but their cumulative effect, combined with ghostly sounds and shadowy figures, creates a pervasive sense of life lingering within the park's abandoned structures. Visual anomalies are also widely reported. Flickering lights along old ride foundations, shadows moving independently of any physical object, and figures reflected in windows or glass that vanish when approached are common experiences. Some witnesses have seen human-like shapes atop ride platforms or standing along the boardwalk, only to disappear moments later. The fleeting nature of these visuals adds to the eeriness, leaving observers with the distinct impression that the park continues to host its former visitors in spectral form. Personal encounters at Brighton Beach often leave lasting impressions. One visitor reported hearing footsteps behind them while walking the empty boardwalk, only to turn and see a shadowy child running toward a carousel, vanishing before reaching it. Another described hearing carnival music, accompanied by the faint vibration of a Ferris wheel, even though the ride was long dismantled. Others have felt sudden cold brushes along their arms or shoulders, coinciding with glimpses of figures moving in peripheral vision. Each of these experiences, brief yet vivid, reinforces the haunting presence lingering over the park. Even the surrounding environment seems affected by Brighton Beach's residual energy. Birds sometimes scatter suddenly, dogs grow uneasy near certain areas, and overgrown vegetation occasionally shifts without visible cause. Wind currents carry faint sounds of whispers or distant music, further reinforcing the impression that the park is still alive in a spectral sense. These subtle environmental cues heighten the immersive quality of the haunting, making it difficult to dismiss the experiences as mere imagination. Paranormal investigations have recorded numerous unexplained phenomena at Brighton Beach. Audio devices capture phantom footsteps, carnival music, and faint whispers. Night vision and thermal cameras sometimes reveal human-shaped figures among the ruins of rides and boardwalks. Sudden cold spots, subtle movements of objects, and flickering lights have all been documented, supporting claims that the park retains an imprint of its past. As darkness falls, the haunting intensifies. Shadowy figures wander the boardwalks. Unseen hands brush against visitors. Phantom music drifts across empty spaces. And faint footsteps echo from rides long dismantled. The combination of auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena creates a chilling, immersive experience, as though Brighton Beach continues to exist in a realm where the memories and energy of past patrons remain alive. Visitors leaving Brighton Beach Amusement Park often describe a mixture of awe, nostalgia, and unease. Shadowy figures, phantom footsteps, ghostly music, and subtle physical sensations serve as a reminder that the park is more than abandoned attractions. It's a living repository of memory, energy, and lingering spirits. For those who explore respectfully, Brighton Beach offers a haunting glimpse into a world where the joy, laughter, and presence of the past continue to coexist with the present, preserving the park's spirit long after its gates closed. Alpine Amusement Park in Alpine, New Jersey, was once a popular destination for families seeking thrills, entertainment, and a touch of whimsy. Crowds flocked to its roller coasters, carousels, and carnival games, filling the air with laughter, music, and the excited chatter of children. However, after the park's closure, the once lively grounds fell silent, leaving behind rusted rides, overgrown pathways, and the lingering echoes of its energetic past. Over time, Alpine Amusement Park developed a reputation for being haunted with visitors reporting shadowy figures, phantom laughter, and rides moving inexplicably, suggesting that the spirits of former staff and patrons continue to inhabit the grounds long after the gates closed. From the moment visitors enter the abandoned park, a peculiar stillness often sets in. Pathways and ride platforms, once bustling with activity, now lie deserted. Yet, there is an unmistakable sense of presence lingering in the air. Some visitors describe feeling watched, a sensation of unseen eyes tracking their movements along the midway. Shadows appear fleetingly at the edges of vision, gliding past rides or along pathways, only to vanish when directly observed. These subtle visual cues create a disquieting impression that the park is not entirely empty, that its energy and memories persist in a spectral form. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported phenomena. Witnesses often describe humanoid shapes appearing near roller coasters, along deserted walkways, or beside carnival games. Some figures appear small and childlike, perhaps representing young patrons who once roamed the park with joy, while others appear adult, resembling former employees or supervisors. These apparitions rarely remain for long, fading quickly when approached. Yet their fleeting presence leaves an unmistakable sense of unease. Many visitors report that these figures sometimes seem to watch silently, a subtle but unnerving reminder that the park's history is not forgotten. Phantom laughter is another hallmark of the haunting. Visitors often hear faint echoes of children's laughter or more mature, playful tones drifting across the empty park. The sounds seem to come from no specific source, rising and fading unpredictably along pathways, near the remnants of rides, or around open fields. This spectral laughter often accompanies sightings of shadowy figures or the subtle movement of rides and objects, creating an immersive experience that blends auditory and visual elements into a hauntingly realistic replay of the park's past activity. Rides moving without explanation are widely reported. Guests have noted carousels rocking gently, roller coaster tracks groaning as though a train is passing, and Ferris wheel cabins tilting slightly despite no electrical power. These subtle motions are often accompanied by the creaking of metal or the faint hum of machinery, giving the impression that unseen forces are operating the attractions. Some visitors report that these movements coincide with the appearance of shadowy figures or the distant sound of laughter, as though the park is momentarily returning to life for brief, ghostly moments. Cold spots and sudden chills are common throughout the abandoned park. Visitors frequently experience abrupt drops in temperature near rides, midway pathways, or open spaces, often coinciding with other paranormal phenomena such as shadowy movements or the faint sound of music. Many describe the sensation of invisible hands brushing against them or a sudden presence nearby. Even on warm days, these inexplicable chills stand out sharply, reinforcing the impression that Alpine Amusement Park is still inhabited in some spectral sense. Auditory anomalies extend beyond laughter. Witnesses have reported phantom footsteps echoing along deserted pathways, the distant whirring of ride machinery, and faint, unidentifiable noises reminiscent of carnival activity. Some describe hearing the jingling of coins or the clatter of game prizes moving. Despite the park having been abandoned for years, these layered auditory experiences, combined with visual sightings and physical sensations, contribute to a comprehensive, multisensory sense of haunting that immerses visitors in the park's past. Objects and structures sometimes appear to move on their own. Ride signs, benches, and carnival props occasionally shift, tilt, or sway as if nudged by invisible hands. Doors and gates may creak open or closed without explanation, and shadows occasionally fall across pathways or ride platforms in ways that defy natural light. These subtle movements reinforce the presence of unseen forces and deepen the sense that the park continues to exist in a liminal space between the past and present. Visual anomalies are often observed. Flickering lights near ride foundations, moving shadows independent of any source, and fleeting glimpses of figures reflected in mirrors or glass contribute to the park's eerie atmosphere. Visitors have occasionally reported seeing spectral forms atop rides or wandering along the midway, only to vanish when approached directly. These brief glimpses create a compelling sense that the park is haunted by the echoes of those who once filled it with life. Personal encounters at Alpine Amusement Park can be startling. One visitor describes seeing a shadowy figure appear at the top of a roller coaster track, standing silently before vanishing into thin air. Another reported hearing phantom laughter and footsteps while exploring the empty midway, accompanied by a sudden cold brush against their arm. Others have witnessed the slight movement of benches or props while standing alone. These experiences, though brief, leave lasting impressions and reinforce the notion that the park remains inhabited by memories and residual energy. Even the surrounding environment seems affected by the park's lingering energy. Birds scatter unpredictably, dogs grow uneasy, and vegetation occasionally shifts as though brushed aside. Creaking structures sometimes move in harmony with reported paranormal activity, creating an immersive atmosphere that blurs the line between reality and spectral presence. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena gives the impression that Alpine Amusement Park continues to exist, at least partially, in a realm where the energy of its past patrons remains active. Paranormal investigators have documented numerous unexplained occurrences at the park. Audio devices capture phantom footsteps, laughter, and whispers. Thermal imaging and night vision cameras sometimes reveal human-shaped figures moving among rides and pathways. Sudden cold spots, flickering lights, and subtle movements of structures are frequently recorded, supporting the claims of lingering spirits. As darkness falls, the haunting intensifies. Shadowy figures roam the empty midway, rides creak and sway without cause. Phantom laughter echoes across the grounds, and cold drafts sweep over visitors. The combined sensory experiences create an immersive environment, as if Alpine Amusement Park is briefly reliving moments of joy, work, and activity from its past. Visitors leaving the park often describe a mix of awe, nostalgia, and unease. Shadowy forms, moving rides, phantom laughter, and sudden cold spots remind all who enter that Alpine Amusement Park is more than abandoned attractions. It is a place where memories, energy, and lingering spirits coexist with the present, preserving the park's spirit long after its gates closed for the last time. Great Falls Amusement Park in Paterson, New Jersey, was once a lively destination where thrill seekers and families gathered to enjoy rides, games, and the natural beauty of the nearby falls. The roar of cascading water, mixed with the laughter of children, the music of carnival attractions, and the excited chatter of visitors, creating a vibrant atmosphere that drew crowds for decades. But after the park closed, the grounds fell silent, and over time, Great Falls Amusement Park developed a reputation for being haunted. Visitors frequently report phantom screams echoing along the paths, ghostly shadows appearing near the falls, and objects moving inexplicably, suggesting that the spirits of those who suffered accidents or spent time in the park remain restless, replaying fragments of the past. Even approaching the park, one can feel a peculiar atmosphere. The pathways, once filled with happy visitors, now lie overgrown and silent, yet there is an unmistakable sense of presence in the air. Many visitors describe the unsettling feeling of being watched, of shadowy movements just beyond their vision. Figures are often glimpsed along the edges of rides, near the waterfalls, or darting between trees, only to vanish when looked at directly. These fleeting visions leave an impression of a space still inhabited by invisible presences, as if the park's energy has been imprinted on the environment itself. Phantom screams are among the most reported phenomena. Visitors often hear sudden, chilling cries echoing from areas near the waterfalls, rides, or pathways, even when no one else is present. The sounds vary in intensity and tone, sometimes sharp and piercing, other times faint and distant, creating a lingering sense of unease. Witnesses have described the screams as resembling cries for help or moments of terror frozen in time, replaying across the park for anyone sensitive enough to perceive them. These auditory experiences are frequently accompanied by visual anomalies or environmental changes, making them all the more convincing and disturbing. Shadowy figures are another hallmark of the haunting. Guests report seeing dark, human-like forms along the boardwalk, near rides, or at the edge of the falls. Some appear as children, others as adults, perhaps representing past patrons, staff, or those who suffered accidents in the park's history. These figures often move with purpose, yet vanish when approached, leaving a disconcerting impression that the park is still populated with remnants of its past. The sighting of a shadowy figure often coincides with the sensation of cold drafts or other unexplained occurrences, reinforcing the sense that the park is not truly empty. Objects moving without explanation are commonly reported. Rides may creak or sway as if in motion, signs tilt slightly, or benches and small props shift subtly when no one is near. Some visitors have reported coins rolling across arcade machines or the faint hum of equipment long since deactivated. These movements, though small, are enough to create a tangible sense of life in the abandoned park, as though unseen forces are momentarily replaying fragments of past activity. Environmental phenomena add to the park's haunted reputation. Sudden cold spots are common, often appearing along pathways, near rides, or at the edge of the waterfalls. Visitors sometimes feel invisible hands brushing against them, or a presence standing close by. Even on warm days, these inexplicable chills can send shivers down the spine, reinforcing the impression that Great Falls Amusement Park is still inhabited in a spectral sense. The combination of cold drafts, auditory disturbances, and shadowy visuals creates an immersive and unsettling experience for those exploring the grounds. Auditory anomalies extend beyond screams. Phantom footsteps echo along empty pathways. The distant sound of laughter drifts across the park, and faint carnival music sometimes plays without origin. Some visitors describe hearing the clatter of objects or the soft whirring of rides that no longer operate. These layered sensory experiences, sound sights, and tactile sensations contribute to a vivid, multisensory sense of haunting, as if the park exists simultaneously in the present and in lingering echoes of its past. Visual disturbances are frequently observed. Shadows may shift independently of natural light. Figures appear briefly along ride platforms or the boardwalk, and fleeting images are seen reflected in windows or puddles. Visitors have occasionally reported seeing spectral forms near the waterfalls, climbing stairs or riding attractions in ways that are impossible for the living. The ephemeral nature of these visions amplifies the eeriness, leaving a lasting impression that the park retains a living memory of its former activity. Personal encounters at Great Falls Amusement Park can be intense. One visitor described seeing a childlike shadow run across the edge of the falls, disappearing before reaching the water. Another recounted hearing phantom laughter while walking a deserted midway. accompanied by a sudden cold brush across their arm. Others notice the subtle swaying of ride components, or the faint shifting of signs while alone. These experiences, brief yet vivid, leave lasting impressions and reinforce the haunting atmosphere of the park. Birds may scatter suddenly, dogs behave nervously, and vegetation moves inexplicably. The nearby waterfalls sometimes carry faint sounds of whispers, laughter, or distant screams, as though the water itself retains echoes of past events. These subtle cues enhance the immersive quality of the haunting, blending natural phenomena with spectral activity to create a chilling atmosphere. Paranormal investigations at Great Falls have documented numerous unexplained events. Audio recordings capture screams, laughter, and footsteps. Thermal imaging and night vision cameras occasionally reveal human-shaped forms moving among rides and pathways. Cold spots, moving objects, and flickering lights are frequently observed, supporting claims that the park is still haunted by the spirits of past visitors and accidents. As darkness falls, the haunting intensifies. Shadowy figures wander the boardwalks, phantom screams echo along the falls, unseen hands brush against visitors, and rides occasionally creak or move without power. The combination of auditory, visual, and tactile phenomena creates a fully immersive experience, as if the park is replaying moments frozen in time. Visitors leaving Great Falls Amusement Park often describe a mix of fear, awe, and nostalgia. Phantom screams, shadowy forms, moving objects, and chilling sensations serve as reminders that the park is more than abandoned rides. It is a repository of memories, energy, and lingering spirits. For those exploring respectfully, the park offers a haunting glimpse into a world where the presence of the past continues to linger, keeping Great Falls alive in spectral form long after its closure. Kittyland in Clifton, New Jersey, was once a cheerful destination for families with young children. The park was filled with colorful rides, playful attractions, and the constant sound of laughter echoing across its walkways. For decades, it offered a place where children could spin on carousels, ride miniature trains, and play games under the watchful eyes of their parents. However, after its closure, the park fell silent, leaving behind abandoned rides, empty pathways, and overgrown gardens. Over time, Kittyland developed a reputation for being haunted. Visitors frequently report shadowy figures, phantom laughter, and objects moving on their own, suggesting that the energy and spirits of past patrons continue to linger among the remnants of the park. From the moment one approaches Kittyland, an unusual stillness can be felt. The bright colors of rides have faded, the pathways are cracked and uneven, and the gentle hum of activity that once filled the park is replaced by a heavy silence. Many visitors describe a sensation of being watched, a subtle awareness of eyes tracking them as they explore the deserted grounds. Shadows flit across the edges of vision, sometimes along ride platforms or near abandoned game booths, only to vanish when looked at directly. These fleeting glimpses suggest that the park is not entirely empty and that traces of its past visitors still linger in a spectral form. Phantom laughter is one of the most commonly reported experiences. Guests often hear the soft giggles and joyful shouts of children echoing across the empty park. The sounds appear randomly, sometimes near the carousel, the miniature train, or along walkways that once teemed with activity. The laughter varies in tone and intensity, at times high-pitched and playful, at other times soft and distant, carrying an almost melancholy quality. Many visitors report that the laughter seems to interact with their movements, growing louder as they approach certain areas and fading when they step away, creating an unsettling but strangely immersive experience. Shadowy figures are frequently observed. Guests describe dark, human-like forms near rides, standing by game booths, or moving between the old pathways. Some figures appear small, like children, while others are adult-sized, possibly representing former staff or guardians who once supervised the park. These apparitions often move deliberately, yet vanish when approached, leaving visitors with a lingering sense that Kittyland's history has left an indelible imprint on the grounds. The presence of these figures often coincides with other phenomena, such as phantom laughter, cold drafts, or the subtle movement of objects, reinforcing the impression of a haunted space. Objects shifting or moving inexplicably are another hallmark of the haunting. Ride carts, benches, and small props occasionally tilt, rock, or slide slightly as though nudged by invisible hands. Carousel horses may sway gently even when there is no wind, and small train cars sometimes appear to shift along their tracks. Visitors report that these movements often occur overnight or during periods of quiet exploration, lending an eerie sense that unseen forces continue to interact with the park's attractions. Cold spots and sudden chills are also commonly reported by those exploring Kittyland. Visitors often feel abrupt drops in temperature near certain rides or pathways, sometimes accompanied by the sensation of an unseen presence brushing past them. Even on warm days, these chills are striking and contribute to the unsettling atmosphere. Many describe the feeling as though the park itself is breathing around them, an ambient energy that recalls the laughter, footsteps, and joy of past patrons. Auditory anomalies extend beyond laughter. Guests have reported hearing phantom footsteps echoing along deserted pathways, the soft click of game pieces moving, and a distant creak of ride machinery, long since inactive. Some visitors even claim to hear the faint strains of music, reminiscent of a calliope or carousel tune, drifting across the abandoned park. These layered sensory experiences create a compelling sense of presence, immersing explorers in a multisensory replay of the park's past activity. Visual disturbances are also common. Shadows may shift independently of any natural light, and fleeting shapes can be seen atop ride platforms or between pathways. Some visitors report glimpsing small, childlike figures standing or running near rides, only to vanish moments later. Other visual anomalies include reflections in windows or puddles of water that reveal human-like shapes not present when looked at directly. These experiences, while brief, reinforce the sense that Kittyland continues to exist as more than just abandoned structures. It is a place where memories and energies persist. Personal encounters can be intense. One visitor describes seeing a small shadow dart across the miniature train track, accompanied by the sound of laughter, disappearing before reaching the other side. Another reported feeling a sudden cold breeze brush against them while walking near the carousel, simultaneously noticing a slight sway in the ride's stationary horses. Others have observed benches or props shifting subtly while standing alone in the park. These experiences, though brief, leave lasting impressions and serve as evidence that the spirits of past patrons or staff remain present. Even the surrounding environment seems influenced by the park's residual energy. Birds sometimes scatter unpredictably. Small animals act skittishly near old ride structures, and wind currents can carry faint, inexplicable sounds. These subtle environmental cues heighten the immersive quality of the haunting, blending natural phenomena with paranormal activity to create an atmosphere that is both eerie and poignant. Paranormal investigators have documented a variety of unexplained occurrences at Kittyland. Audio devices capture phantom, laughter, and footsteps, while night vision cameras occasionally reveal shadowy figures moving among the rides. Cold spots, moving objects, and fleeting visual anomalies have been recorded repeatedly, supporting the claims of lingering spirits. As darkness falls, the haunting often intensifies. Shadowy forms appear along ride paths, phantom laughter echoes through empty spaces, and small objects continue to move subtly. Cold drafts sweep over visitors, and the combined auditory, visual, and tactile experiences create a vivid impression that the park is momentarily alive again, replaying fragments of joy, activity, and presence from its past. Visitors leaving Kittyland often describe a mixture of awe, nostalgia, and unease. Shadowy figures, phantom laughter, moving objects, and sudden chills remind all who enter that the park is more than just abandoned rides. It is a repository of memories, energy, and lingering spirits. A place where the joy and presence of past patrons continue to coexist with the present, keeping Kittyland alive long after its closure. Adventure Island in Toms River, New Jersey, was once a lively amusement park where families gathered for excitement, laughter, and the thrill of rides. Ferris wheels, roller coasters, and spinning attractions drew visitors from near and far. And the park-esque boardwalks echoed with the joyful chatter of children and the playful music of carnival tunes. But after its closure, Adventure Island fell into disrepair, and the vibrancy of its past was replaced with silence, overgrown pathways, and decaying rides. Over the years, the park gained a reputation for being haunted, with numerous reports of phantom screams, shadowy figures, and flickering lights suggesting that the spirits of staff and visitors who suffered accidents continued to linger among the abandoned attractions. From the moment visitors step onto the grounds of Adventure Island, a peculiar sense of stillness is often felt. The pathways, once crowded with excited guests, now lie empty. Yet there is an unmistakable sense of presence in the air. Many report feeling as if unseen eyes are tracking their movements as they wander past dilapidated rides and vacant game booths. Shadows flit at the edges of vision, sometimes along the boardwalks or near roller coaster tracks, only to vanish when directly observed. These fleeting glimpses give the impression that the park's energy and history remain embedded in the very grounds, creating a lingering awareness that the area is not truly empty. Phantom screams are among the most frequently reported phenomena at Adventure Island. Visitors often hear sudden, chilling cries echoing from the rides or along deserted pathways. The sounds vary in intensity, sometimes sharp and piercing, at other times faint and distant, creating a sense of unease and anticipation. Witnesses describe these screams as resembling moments of terror, frozen in time, replaying the tragic events of past accidents. Many claim that the screams are often accompanied by other paranormal occurrences, such as flickering lights or sudden cold spots, amplifying the sense of a haunting that is both auditory and physical. Shadowy figures are commonly reported throughout the park. Guests describe dark, humanoid forms appearing near rides, along boardwalks, or between deserted attractions. Some figures are small, childlike shapes, while others appear adult, possibly representing staff or older visitors who once roamed the park. These apparitions often move deliberately, yet vanish when approached, leaving an unsettling impression that Adventure Island is still populated by remnants of its past. Flickering and malfunctioning lights are another hallmark of the park's haunting. Visitors frequently report lights turning on and off without explanation, illuminating sections of the park for brief moments before plunging them back into darkness. Ride lights, string bulbs along the boardwalk, and signs may blink unexpectedly, often coinciding with other phenomena like shadowy figures or phantom screams. The sporadic illumination creates an eerie visual effect, enhancing the sense of ghostly activity and heightening the tension for anyone exploring the abandoned grounds. Cold spots and sudden chills are commonly experienced by those wandering Adventure Islands. Visitors describe abrupt drops in temperature near certain rides or pathways, often coinciding with sightings of shadowy figures or the hearing of phantom screams. Even on warm days, these cold drafts are pronounced, leaving a lasting impression of the presence of unseen forces. Many report feeling as if invisible hands brush past them or that someone is standing just out of sight, creating a palpable sense of unease. Auditory anomalies extend beyond screams. Guests sometimes hear phantom footsteps echoing along empty boardwalks, the faint clatter of ride machinery, or soft carnival music drifting across the abandoned grounds. Some report hearing whispers or murmurs that seem to issue from nowhere, as though past visitors or staff are replaying fragments of conversation. These layered auditory experiences combine with visual and tactile phenomena to create a multi-sensory haunting that immerses visitors in the park's spectral past. Objects and rides occasionally move on their own. Benches may tilt, carts may shift slightly, and ride components may creak or rock as though in motion. Visitors report that these movements often occur during moments of silence, when no one else is present, reinforcing the impression that unseen forces are interacting with the environment. Even minor movements, such as a subtle sway of a carousel horse, can be deeply unsettling when combined with flickering lights or ghostly sounds. Visual anomalies are often reported. Shadows may move independently of natural light. Fleeting shapes appear atop rides or along pathways, and reflections in puddles or glass surfaces sometimes reveal figures not present when directly observed. Visitors occasionally report seeing spectral staff members near concession stands or rides, performing repetitive motions as if replaying their daily tasks. These fleeting glimpses contribute to a vivid sense that the park is inhabited by memories and energy from its operational past. Personal encounters at Adventure Island can be intense. One visitor described seeing a tall, shadowy figure standing near the entrance of a roller coaster before disappearing entirely. Another reported hearing phantom screams and laughter while walking along the deserted midway, accompanied by a sudden cold breeze brushing their arm. Others have witnessed flickering lights coinciding with faint movements of ride components or the soft sound of footsteps echoing from empty walkways. These brief, vivid experiences leave lasting impressions and reinforce the notion that the park is haunted by the spirits of those who once lived, worked, and sometimes died there. Even the surrounding environment seems affected by the park's residual energy. Birds scatter unpredictably. Small animals behave nervously near old ride structures, and wind currents carry faint, inexplicable sounds. These subtle cues amplify the haunting, blending natural phenomena with the presence of lingering spirits to create an immersive and unsettling atmosphere. Paranormal investigators have documented a range of unexplained events at Adventure Island. Audio recordings capture phantom screams, laughter, and footsteps. Thermal imaging and night vision cameras occasionally reveal shadowy human-like figures moving across the park. Cold spots, flickering lights, and subtle ride movements have been observed repeatedly, supporting the idea that the park remains a space where energy from past patrons and staff lingers. As night falls, the haunting often intensifies. Shadowy figures roam deserted walkways, phantom screams echo across the grounds, and flickering lights illuminate fleeting forms in brief, ghostly bursts. Cold drafts sweep over visitors, rides creak and sway without cause, and a combined sensory phenomena creates an immersive experience, as though the park is replaying fragments of life, laughter, and tragedy from its past. Visitors leaving Adventure Island often describe a mixture of fear, nostalgia, and awe. Phantom screams, flickering lights, shadowy figures, and sudden chills serve as reminders that the park is more than abandoned attractions. It is a repository of memories, energy, and lingering spirits, where the echoes of past staff and patrons continue to coexist with the present, keeping Adventure Island alive long after its closure. Lake Como Amusement Park in Belmar, New Jersey, was once a bustling destination for families seeking fun and relaxation along the scenic lakeshore. With vibrant rides, colorful game booths, and the constant hum of laughter and carnival music, the park was a haven for children and adults alike. From merry-go-rounds to Ferris wheels, small roller coasters, and lively midway games, every corner of the park was alive with energy. But after its closure, Lake Como Amusement Park fell silent, leaving behind abandoned rides, empty pathways, and decaying attractions. Over time, the park gained a reputation for being haunted, with visitors reporting ghostly children playing near the lake, rides moving subtly on their own, and shadowy figures lingering near deserted game stands. Approaching the grounds, even during daylight, many visitors report a peculiar feeling of unease. The colorful vibrancy of the park has faded, replaced by rusted structures, overgrown paths, and silent rides. Yet, there is an unmistakable sense of presence. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed near the edges of vision, darting between rides, disappearing behind faded signs, or vanishing into the mist rising from the lake. These fleeting images create the impression that the park is still inhabited, not by the living, but by echoes of the past, replaying moments frozen in time. Ghostly children are among the most frequently reported phenomena. Visitors often hear the soft patter of tiny feet across the walkways, accompanied by laughter and the faint sounds of play. The laughter drifts unpredictably, sometimes coming from the direction of the Ferris wheel, the merry-go-round, or the banks of the lake. On occasion, figures resembling children are seen running across open spaces, climbing onto abandoned rides, or playing near the water's edge. These apparitions vanish when approached, leaving behind only the lingering echo of their activity and an eerie sense that the park is still a place of childhood joy. Rides themselves are often reported moving subtly on their own. Carousel horses may sway gently, Ferris wheel cars may tilt slightly, or small roller coaster cars appear to shift as though recently occupied. These movements are typically imperceptible at first, but attentive visitors notice the motions, often accompanied by a sense of chill or an unexplained draft. The subtle activity of the rides gives the impression that the park's energy has never fully left, that the laughter, joy, and excitement are replaying themselves invisibly for anyone willing to see. Shadowy figures are also commonly observed near the game stands and deserted attractions. Some appear human, possibly former staff or older patrons, while others are indistinct silhouettes that fade in and out of view. These figures often move deliberately but vanish when approached, heightening the eerie atmosphere of the park. Many visitors report seeing these shadows near the edges of the lake, at the corners of rides, or hovering along the empty pathways. The combination of visual apparitions, subtle ride movements, and ghostly sounds creates a multisensory haunting that makes the abandoned park feel alive in spectral form. Cold drafts are a recurring experience for visitors. Even on warm, sunny days, sudden drops in temperature occur near rides, along the boardwalk, or close to the lake. These inexplicable chills are often accompanied by a feeling of being watched or by other phenomena, such as the distant sound of laughter or faint footsteps. Guests frequently describe the cold spots as sharp and sudden, sending shivers down their spine and reinforcing the impression that unseen presences linger in the park. Auditory anomalies extend beyond laughter. Visitors report phantom footsteps echoing along empty paths, faint carnival music drifting from the abandoned arcade, and the occasional sound of spinning rides or rolling wheels. Some hear whispers and murmurs, faint conversations that seem to float through the air, as though the park itself is replaying fragments of past activity. These layered sounds create a hauntingly immersive environment, making it difficult to distinguish between natural echoes and supernatural phenomena. Visual disturbances are also common. Shadows may shift independently of natural light. Fleeting shapes appear atop ride platforms or along walkways, and reflections in puddles or windows sometimes reveal forms that vanish when directly observed. Some visitors have reported seeing children playing near the lake or figures climbing onto Ferris wheel cars, only to disappear before they can be approached. These fleeting glimpses leave a lasting impression, suggesting that the park is still inhabited by traces of its past visitors. Personal encounters are often vivid. One visitor described seeing a small, shadowy child running across the boardwalk, accompanied by the faint sound of laughter, disappearing into the mist near the lake. Another reported noticing a carousel horse sway as they walked by, though no wind or movement could explain it, followed by a sudden cold draft along their neck. Others have seen shadowy figures lingering near empty game stands, vanishing when observed directly. Each of these encounters reinforces the sense that Lake Como Amusement Park is more than abandoned rides. It is a repository of memories, energy, and lingering spirits. Even the surrounding environment seems affected by the park's residual energy. Birds scatter suddenly, small animals behave nervously near abandoned attractions, and wind currents carry faint, unexplained sounds. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile phenomena creates a hauntingly immersive experience that leaves visitors both awed and unnerved. Those leaving Lake Como Amusement Park often describe a mixture of nostalgia, unease, and wonder. Ghostly children, subtle ride movements, shadowy figures, and cold drafts serve as reminders that the park is more than its decayed structures. It is a place where the laughter, play, and presence of past patrons continue to linger, keeping Lake Como alive in spectral form long after its closure. Joyland Amusement Park in Lodi, New Jersey, was once a lively attraction, drawing families and thrill seekers to its colorful rides, bustling midway, and cheerful games. The park offered a mix of attractions, from spinning carousels and small roller coasters to game booths lined with prizes, all accompanied by the lively sounds of laughter and carnival music. For decades, it was a place of joy, where children's laughter and the excitement of visitors filled the air. But after its closure, the park fell silent, leaving behind rusting rides, cracked walkways, and overgrown paths. Over the years, Joyland has developed a reputation for being haunted, with visitors reporting shadowy figures moving among abandoned rides, phantom laughter echoing across the midway, and a palpable sense of lingering spirits from the park's tragic past. Approaching the grounds, visitors often describe a peculiar stillness, a quiet that contrasts sharply with the park's once vibrant atmosphere. Even during daylight, there is a sense that unseen eyes are watching, as shadows appear at the edges of vision, near rides, game booths, or along empty pathways. These fleeting glimpses vanish when directly observed, giving the impression that the park is still alive, inhabited not by the living but by the echoes of its past patrons and staff. The sense of being observed, combined with the decaying attractions, sets a tone of unease for those who wander the grounds. Phantom laughter is among the most common reports. Guests often hear high-pitched giggles and soft laughter drifting from the carousel, the train ride, or along the empty midway. The sounds are unpredictable, sometimes distant and faint, other times close and startling, creating the impression that children or visitors from the past are still playing within the park. On some occasions, the laughter seems to respond to the presence of the living, growing louder as visitors approach certain areas and fading as they move away. This auditory phenomenon evokes both nostalgia and unease, reminding visitors that Joyland's energy persists even after its closure. Shadowy figures are frequently observed. Guests describe human-like shapes moving near rides, along pathways, or behind game booths. Some figures appear child-sized, while others resemble adult staff members, suggesting the lingering presence of those who once worked or visited the park. These apparitions often move with purpose, but vanish when approached, leaving a sense of mystery and reinforcing the notion that Joyland is more than an abandoned amusement park, is a space where past lives and memories linger in visible form. Abandoned rides sometimes appear to move subtly on their own. Carousel horses may rock gently, Ferris wheel cars may tilt slightly, and small roller coaster vehicles may appear to shift along the tracks. These movements are subtle but noticeable, often coinciding with other phenomena such as laughter or shadowy figures. Visitors describe the sensation as if the park is replaying fragments of its former activity, with the spirits of patrons and staff revisiting moments frozen in time. Cold drafts are commonly reported, even on warm days. Sudden drops in temperature often occur near rides, along empty walkways, or in corners of the park where shadows linger. Visitors report feeling an invisible presence brushing past them or standing nearby, intensifying the sense of unease. The combination of cold spots, visual apparitions, and auditory anomalies creates a multisensory haunting, leaving guests acutely aware of Joyland's lingering energy. Auditory anomalies extend beyond laughter. Phantom footsteps echo along the empty pathways. Faint carnival music drifts across the midway, and the occasional creak of a ride can be heard despite the lack of power or wind. Some visitors report whispers or murmurs coming from seemingly empty areas, as though the park itself is replaying snippets of conversation and activity from its operational past. These layered sounds enhance the immersive and eerie atmosphere, blending past and present into an unsettling experience for anyone exploring the grounds. Visual disturbances are common. Shadows shift independently of natural light. Fleeting figures appear atop ride platforms or between attractions, and reflections in puddles or windows reveal forms that vanish when looked at directly. Guests occasionally report seeing children playing near rides or staff members performing repetitive tasks, only to disappear when approached. These fleeting glimpses reinforce the idea that Joyland is not simply abandoned. It is haunted by residual energy and memories that continue to manifest in subtle yet vivid ways. Personal encounters are often intense, One visitor describes seeing a small shadow dart across the Ferris wheel platform while hearing soft laughter, disappearing before they could react. Another reported phantom footsteps following them along the empty midway, coinciding with the subtle swaying of a carousel horse. Others have witnessed shadowy figures lingering near closed game booths, vanishing the moment attention is directed toward them. Each encounter leaves a lasting impression, demonstrating that the park remains alive with the echoes of its past. Even the surrounding environment seems affected by Joyland's residual energy. Birds and small animals behave unpredictably near old ride structures, and wind currents sometimes carry faint, unexplained sounds. These subtle environmental cues reinforce the haunting, blending natural and paranormal elements into a seamless, immersive experience for visitors. Those leaving Joyland Amusement Park often describe a mix of nostalgia, unease, and wonder. Shadowy figures, phantom laughter, moving rides, and sudden chills serve as reminders that the park is more than its abandoned structures. It is a place where the energy, memories, and spirits of past patrons and staff continue to linger, keeping Joyland alive in spectral form long after its doors closed. Enchanted Forest in Howell, New Jersey, was once a charming amusement park that drew families with its whimsical attractions, colorful fairy tale-themed rides, and immersive storybook environments. Children would squeal with delight on roller coasters, giggle as they rode carousels, and wander through paths lined with themed props and playful decorations. The park was a place of imagination and joy, where the sounds of laughter and cheerful music blended with the scent of popcorn and cotton candy. But after its closure, the once lively grounds fell silent, and the whimsical charm gave way to overgrown trails, rusting rides, and decaying attractions. Over time, Enchanted Forest developed a reputation for being haunted, with reports of phantom figures in costume laughter echoing through deserted sections, and sudden cold spots along the trails suggesting that the spirit of the park remains alive in unseen ways. Even approaching the park, visitors often report a strange stillness. The once bustling paths and bright decorations now lie in decay, yet there is an eerie sense of presence. Shadows are often glimpsed along the edges of trails, near abandoned rides, or behind props, moving just beyond direct sight. These fleeting shapes disappear when observed directly, leaving visitors with the impression that the park is still inhabited, not by the living, but by echoes of its past, lingering in the very air and surroundings of the Enchanted Forest. Phantom figures are among the most commonly reported occurrences. Guests describe human-like forms dressed in costumes, sometimes resembling fairy tale characters, other times vaguely shaped in old staff uniforms, wandering between rides or along the empty pathways. These figures often move deliberately, performing actions as though they are still entertaining visitors, only to vanish when approached. Shadowy figures have been observed near old carousel platforms, along the winding forest trails, and beside rusted ride vehicles, leaving witnesses with a sense that the park's energy is frozen in time, replaying moments of joy and activity for anyone present. Laughter is a frequent auditory phenomenon at Enchanted Forest. Visitors report hearing the sound of children's giggles or soft, playful chuckles echoing from areas that are otherwise empty. The laughter seems to come from the direction of the old carousel, train tracks, or fairy tale props, drifting unpredictably and fading when approached. On some occasions, the laughter intensifies, as if responding to the presence of living visitors, only to vanish abruptly, leaving an unsettling silence in its wake. This auditory replay of past joy gives the park a hauntingly immersive quality, where moments of happiness seem frozen yet ever present. Cold spots are another hallmark of the park's haunting. Even on warm days, visitors report sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature along trails, near abandoned rides, or at intersections between attractions. These cold drafts are often accompanied by a feeling of being watched or the presence of unseen figures nearby. The sensations can be sharp and startling, reinforcing the notion that the park is not empty, but inhabited by lingering spirits or residual energy from its active past. Rides and props themselves sometimes appear to move on their own. Carousel horses may sway gently, Small train cars may shift slightly along tracks, and decorative props might tilt or rock as though in motion. These subtle movements are often reported alongside shadowy figures or laughter, creating a layered, multisensory experience that immerses visitors in a haunting that is both visual and tactile. Even minor, almost imperceptible movements can leave a lasting impression, heightening the sense of unease. Auditory anomalies extend beyond laughter. Guests sometimes hear phantom footsteps echoing along deserted walkways, faint music drifting from the carousel or bandstands, and occasional creaks or rattles from ride structures. Whispers or murmurs, as if from distant conversations, may drift across the trails, adding to the sensation that the park itself is replaying fragments of its past activity. These auditory experiences, combined with visual apparitions and subtle movements, make the haunting feel immersive and tangible. Visual phenomena are also commonly reported. Shadows may move independently of natural light. Fleeting figures appear atop platforms or along trails, and reflections in puddles or glass surfaces sometimes reveal shapes that vanish when looked at directly. Some visitors have reported seeing small, costumed figures standing near rides or props, only to disappear moments later. These visual disturbances reinforce the impression that Enchanted Forest is more than abandoned attractions. It's a space where memories and energy persist in subtle but vivid forms. Personal encounters are often striking. One visitor described walking along a trail and seeing a small, shadowed figure in costume standing near the edge of an old carousel platform, which vanished when they drew closer. Another reported hearing laughter behind them on the trail, turning to see no one there, and feeling a sudden chill along their neck. Others have witnessed objects, such as ride signs or props, subtly shifting, coinciding with the appearance of a shadowy figure or the sound of distant giggles. These encounters leave a lasting impression, demonstrating that the park continues to replay fragments of its past. Even the surrounding environment seems touched by the park's lingering energy. Birds scatter suddenly near old structures. Small animals behave nervously along trails, and faint, unexplained sounds sometimes drift on the wind. These subtle signs enhance the haunting, blending natural phenomena with the presence of residual spirits or energy to create a compelling, immersive experience. Visitors leaving Enchanted Forest often describe a mix of nostalgia, awe, and unease. Phantom figures in costume, laughter echoing from empty sections, subtle movements of rides, and sudden cold drafts serve as reminders that the park is more than abandoned. It is a repository of lingering energy, where the spirits and memories of staff and visitors continue to inhabit the grounds, keeping Enchanted Forest alive long after its gates have closed. Surf City Amusement Park in Beach Haven, New Jersey, was once a lively destination where the sun, sand, and amusement rides combined to create a haven of excitement for families and children. The park was filled with colorful attractions, from spinning carousels and Ferris wheels to arcade games and carnival booths. Visitors would fill the walkways, the air resonating with laughter, music, and the joyful chaos of summer fun. But after the park closed, the once thriving grounds fell silent. Rusting rides, overgrown paths, and empty arcades replaced the lively atmosphere, leaving behind a sense of abandonment and decay. Over time, Surf City gained a reputation for being haunted. Locals and visitors alike report shadowy children appearing near empty rides, phantom carnival music playing from the abandoned arcades, and in some unsettling cases, the sensation of cold hands resting on their shoulders as though unseen presences still roam the deserted park. From the moment one steps onto the grounds, there is a peculiar sense of being watched. The once bright pathways are cracked, overgrown with weeds, and lined with dilapidated attractions. Shadows are often glimpsed, moving along the edges of vision, darting between rides, or disappearing behind old game booths. These fleeting glimpses vanish when approached directly, leaving visitors with the impression that the park is still inhabited, but not by the living wraither, by echoes of its vibrant past, replaying themselves in spectral form. Shadowy children are among the most frequently reported phenomena. Visitors have described small, fleeting figures near the Ferris wheel, carousel, and roller coaster, often appearing to play or run along the walkways. Their movements are unpredictable, sometimes darting from one ride to another, vanishing suddenly when noticed. Some witnesses have claimed that these apparitions resemble the children who once filled the park with laughter, frozen in time, and continuing their play in the afterlife. The appearance of these figures is often accompanied by sounds of laughter, soft, high-pitched giggles, or the distant echoes of joy that seem to come from nowhere. This laughter drifts along the empty paths, rising and fading unpredictably, as if the park itself is replaying moments of happiness long after its closure. Phantom music is another commonly reported phenomenon. Visitors often hear the faint strains of carnival tunes, arcade games chiming, or carousel music drifting across the abandoned grounds. The music seems to emanate from old, silent arcade machines or deserted rides, echoing through the air as though the park itself refuses to fall silent. Sometimes, the music appears to respond to the presence of living visitors, growing louder or shifting in tone as they move closer to specific attractions, only to fade abruptly. This auditory haunting combines with the visual apparitions of shadowy children to create an immersive, eerie atmosphere, where past and present overlap in unsettling ways. Visitors also report sudden physical sensations, the most unsettling of which are cold touches. Some describe feeling cold hands on their shoulders, brushing past them along the empty walkways, or resting lightly on their arms. These sensations are often accompanied by the visual or auditory phenomena of the park, reinforcing the impression of an unseen presence that continues to inhabit the grounds. The cold touches are typically fleeting, leaving a lingering chill and a deep sense of unease that makes the haunting all the more real. The rides and attractions themselves sometimes seem to move subtly on their own. Carousel horses may rock slightly, Ferris wheel cars may tilt, or small roller coaster cars appear to shift along the track. These subtle movements, often accompanied by laughter or phantom music, give the impression that the energy of the park has never fully left, replaying the joy and activity of its operational days. Even minor, almost imperceptible movements can leave a lasting impression, heightening the sense that the park is alive in spectral form. Auditory anomalies extend beyond music and laughter. Footsteps echo across empty paths, and faint creaks or rattles are heard from ride structures that have long since ceased operation. Whispers and murmurs, seemingly originating from nowhere, add to the sense that Surf City is replaying fragments of its past activity. Some visitors have reported hearing voices calling out names, as if the park itself is reaching out to interact with those exploring its abandoned grounds. The layering of sounds, phantom music, laughter, footsteps, and whispers creates a hauntingly immersive experience for anyone who wanders the park after hours. Visual phenomena are equally unsettling. Shadows shift independently of natural light. Fleeting figures appear atop platforms or along pathways, and reflections in puddles or windows sometimes reveal shapes that vanish when looked at directly. Guests have described seeing children running along the carousel or arcade areas, only to disappear into thin air. Shadowy figures sometimes linger near arcade machines, moving as if playing or interacting with objects, yet leaving no physical trace behind. These glimpses reinforce the sense that Surf City is haunted by the memories and spirits of those who once brought it to life. Even the surrounding environment seems affected by the residual energy of the park. Birds scatter unpredictably near rides. Wind currents carry faint, unexplained sounds, and small animals behave nervously in ways that suggest an awareness of unseen presences. These subtle environmental cues enhance the haunting, creating a layered and immersive experience that blends the natural and supernatural seamlessly. Visitors leaving Surf City Amusement Park often describe a mix of nostalgia, awe, and unease. Shadowy children, phantom music, laughter from empty sections, and sudden cold touches all serve as reminders that the park is more than its abandoned rides and silent arcades. It is a place where memories, energy, and lingering spirits continue to inhabit the grounds, keeping Surf City alive in spectral form long after its doors closed. Ocean City Boardwalk in Ocean City, New Jersey, has long been a beloved destination for vacationers seeking sun, surf, and seaside amusement. For decades, the boardwalk has been lined with shops, arcades, and restaurants, while the scent of saltwater mingled with popcorn, cotton candy, and fried treats. Families flocked to the area for its lively rides, carnival games, and the constant hum of laughter, creating an atmosphere of endless summer fun. Yet, beneath the cheerful exterior lies a darker history. Decades of accidents, disappearances, and unexplained tragedies have left an imprint on the boardwalk, giving rise to ghost stories and reports of paranormal activity. Shadowy figures walking along the pier, phantom music drifting from empty arcades, and ghostly laughter echoing at night are all part of the chilling lore that surrounds this coastal landmark. Even during daylight hours, visitors sometimes feel an uneasy presence as they stroll along the worn planks of the boardwalk. What was once vibrant and bustling now contains pockets of stillness, where shadows seem to linger just beyond the edges of sight. Many report seeing fleeting figures walking purposefully along the pier, their movements swift and unnatural, vanishing as soon as they are noticed. At night, the hauntings become more pronounced. Phantom music, often described as carnival tunes or the distant melodies of arcade machines, drifts along the empty pier. The sounds are faint but persistent, echoing across the boardwalk and mingling with the distant crash of waves. Visitors claim that the music often seems to respond to their presence, growing louder as they approach certain sections and fading when they turn away. Combined with the eerie quiet of a deserted night, the phantom music gives the boardwalk an otherworldly, almost dreamlike quality, where the boundaries between past and present blur. Shadowy figures are frequently reported throughout the boardwalk area. Witnesses often describe these figures as partially transparent or indistinct, their features blurred as though fading between realities. On occasion, these apparitions are seen near the sites of old rides or past accidents, suggesting a connection between the individuals and the history of the boardwalk itself. These figures seem to repeat the motions of their former lives, walking, laughing, or glancing toward the sea but vanish when approached, leaving only the lingering sense of their presence. Ghostly laughter is another common phenomenon. It often carries across the empty pier, soft and fleeting, echoing from nowhere in particular. Some describe it as high-pitched, childlike giggling, while others hear the deeper laughter of adults mingling with the sounds of the ocean. The laughter may rise and fall unpredictably, sometimes responding to the movements of visitors, giving the impression that unseen figures are actively observing and interacting with those who explore the boardwalk. For many, the combination of laughter and shadowy figures is unsettling, creating a sensation that the boardwalk is alive with the memories of its past patrons. Phantom touches and physical sensations are also reported by some visitors. Cold drafts can sweep across the pier with no wind, brushing against the skin or chilling the air around them. Some claim to feel light touches on their shoulders or arms, sudden and fleeting, accompanied by the whisper of movement just beyond the corner of their vision. These sensations are unpredictable, appearing in quiet stretches of the boardwalk or near deserted attractions, leaving witnesses with a profound sense of unease. Auditory anomalies extend beyond laughter and music. Visitors report hearing footsteps echoing across empty planks, the distant rattle of arcade machines, or the faint creak of abandoned rides swaying in the wind. Some describe whispers or murmurs as if fragmented conversations are repeating themselves, carrying the voices of the past into the present. The layering of these sounds, phantom music, laughter, footsteps, and whispers, creates an immersive haunting, making it difficult to discern whether the phenomena are natural echoes or supernatural in origin. Visual disturbances also contribute to the eerie reputation of Ocean City Boardwalk. Shadows shift unnaturally in the corners of vision. Fleeting figures appear atop ride platforms or near old game booths, and reflections in shop windows or puddles sometimes reveal shapes that vanish when observed directly. These fleeting glimpses leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the sense that the boardwalk is haunted by the memories of those who once enjoyed it. Even the surrounding environment seems affected by lingering energies. Birds scatter unpredictably. Small animals act nervously along the edges of the pier. And waves sometimes carry faint, unexplainable sounds that blend with the phantom laughter and music. These subtle environmental cues enhance the sensation that Ocean City Boardwalk is not merely abandoned in places or quiet at night, but imbued with the residual presence of its past visitors. Visitors leaving the boardwalk often describe a mix of nostalgia, wonder, and unease. Shadowy figures, phantom music, laughter echoing through empty sections, and unexplained cold touches all serve as reminders that the pier is more than a collection of rides and shops. It is a living memory where the energy, spirits, and echoes of decades past continue to linger, keeping Ocean City Boardwalk haunted and alive long after the sun has set and the crowds have gone home. Casino Pier, Ferris wheel in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, has long been a symbol of the boardwalk's vibrant energy, attracting visitors with its towering presence, colorful lights, and panoramic views of the ocean. For decades, families, couples, and thrill-seekers rode the Ferris wheel, enjoying the gentle rise and fall of the cars and the dizzying sweep of the boardwalk below. Yet, behind the bright lights and festive music lies a darker history. Over the years, the Ferris wheel has been the site of several accidents, some fatal, leaving an indelible mark on the attraction. Today, the Ferris wheel has gained a reputation for being haunted, with reports of ghostly figures riding the wheel, phantom screams echoing across the boardwalk, and mysterious flickering lights appearing at night. Visitors approaching the Ferris wheel often notice an eerie sense of stillness. The usual sounds of the boardwalk chatter, music, and ocean waves seem muted or distant, replaced by a tension that grows as one nears the structure. Even in the daytime, some report seeing shadowy figures moving within the Ferris wheel cars, as though the spirits of past patrons continue to ride despite the wheel's hours of operation or temporary closures. These figures are often described as indistinct, blurred shapes that resemble riders frozen mid-motion, creating the impression that moments of past tragedy replay endlessly on the giant wheel. At night, the hauntings are said to intensify. Phantom screams are among the most unsettling phenomena reported. Visitors have described hearing sudden high-pitched shrieks that echo from the Ferris wheel's platform or along the boardwalk below. The screams are sometimes accompanied by glimpses of shadowy figures in the wheel's cars, vanishing when directly observed. These auditory experiences can be startling, often leaving visitors frozen in place, feeling as though the wheel itself carries the echoes of its tragic past. Flickering lights are another common occurrence. Guests report seeing the Ferris wheel's bulbs flash or blink irregularly, despite there being no power running to the structure or no storms in the area. Some claim the lights form fleeting patterns, tracing the outline of human forms within the cars, or pulsing in rhythm with phantom screams or laughter. These unexplained light displays create a disorienting and eerie atmosphere, enhancing the sense that the Ferris wheel is alive with residual energy. Shadowy figures are frequently observed riding the Ferris wheel. Witnesses often report seeing silhouettes in the cars, some appearing as adults, others as children, their features obscured but their presence unmistakable. These figures sometimes wave, gesture, or shift positions as if interacting with the living, yet vanish the moment attention is focused directly on them. Some visitors describe seeing multiple figures at once, as though entire families or groups of past riders are trapped in a spectral loop, forever repeating their final ride on the wheel. Phantom sounds are not limited to screams. Guests often hear the creak and groan of the Ferris wheel's machinery, the sound of chains rattling, or the faint whir of motors moving the cars, even when the wheel is completely still. Other reports include soft laughter or murmurs, echoing as though from inside the cars or beneath the platform. The layering of these sound screams, laughter, mechanical noises creates a hauntingly immersive experience that can make visitors feel as though they are witnessing a spectral performance, replayed over and over since the time of the accidents. Physical sensations are sometimes reported alongside the visual and auditory phenomena. Cold drafts can sweep across the boarding area or the surrounding pier, chilling the skin even on warm evenings. Some visitors claim to feel light touches on their arms or shoulders, coinciding with glimpses of shadowy figures or sudden flickering of lights. These inexplicable sensations reinforce the idea that the Ferris wheel is not just haunted in sight and sound, but also in the physical space it occupies, leaving an indelible mark on anyone who approaches. Environmental oddities often accompany the hauntings. Birds or seagulls behave erratically around the wheel, scattering suddenly without warning. Small debris may shift along the pier, or the wind may carry sounds that mimic human voices or laughter. These subtle cues enhance the overall sensation of an active haunting, blending natural phenomena with residual spectral activity to create an immersive and unsettling experience. Visitors' personal accounts are often vivid and chilling. One person described seeing a shadowy child riding alone in a car, staring out toward the ocean, only to vanish when they moved closer. Another reported hearing several screams from different sections of the wheel, while simultaneously seeing the lights flicker in patterns that seem to trace the forms of multiple riders. Others have experienced a sensation of being lightly touched as they approach the boarding area, coinciding with the visual or auditory presence of apparitions. Each encounter reinforces the idea that the Ferris wheel is more than a static structure. It is a conduit for the lingering presence of those who once enjoyed it, and for some, tragically, those who never left it alive. Even when the pier is otherwise quiet, the Ferris wheel exerts a powerful, almost magnetic pull on visitors, drawing their attention toward the spinning structure. Shadowy figures, phantom screams, flickering lights, and subtle mechanical sounds create an environment where the past and present collide. Guests often leave with a sense of awe, unease, and lingering curiosity, haunted not just by the physical rides, but by the stories and spirits embedded within the Ferris wheel's legacy. Those departing Casino Pier often speak of the Ferris wheel in hushed tones. It is remembered not only as an iconic landmark of seaside heights, but also as a site of lingering tragedy and spectral activity. Ghostly figures, phantom screams, flickering lights, and the faint creak of unseen machinery all serve as reminders that the Ferris wheel is more than metal and bulbs. It is a place where memories, energy, and spirits continue to ride endlessly long after the laughter and music of the living have faded. Steel Pier Carousel in Atlantic City has long been a centerpiece of the famous Boardwalk, enchanting visitors with its ornate horses, painted panels, and the melodic strains of carousel music. Generations of children once laughed and squealed as they rode the spinning attraction, their excitement blending with the scent of the ocean and the salty air drifting from the nearby pier. Yet beneath its cheerful exterior, the carousel harbors a darker legacy. Over the decades, accidents, sudden illnesses, and unexplained events have left an imprint on the attraction, giving rise to stories of hauntings. Visitors report horses moving slightly on their own, laughter echoing through empty rooms, and sudden cold drafts that appear without warning. The carousel, a symbol of joy and innocence, has become a place where the past refuses to stay silent. Even during daylight, the carousel has an uncanny presence. The once bright colors of the painted horses now seem muted, and the air carries a peculiar weight, as if memories linger in the spinning platform. Many visitors claim to notice subtle movements, a horse rocking slightly when no one is nearby, its mane shimmering in a breeze that isn't there, or the polished pole swaying ever so gently, as if someone invisible is riding. These minor movements are often dismissed as tricks of the eye, but when combined with other reports, they suggest that the carousel retains echoes of the children who once rode it, replaying their joy in spectral form. Auditory phenomena are particularly common at Steel Pier Carousel. Witnesses have reported laughter, high-pitched, childlike giggles that seem to circle the room, drifting from the center of the carousel outward. The laughter is often unpredictable, sometimes rising and falling, or responding to the presence of visitors exploring the area. Some describe hearing the soft click of the carousel's gears and the distant tinkle of music, even when the ride is powered down. The sound seems to come from nowhere, filling the space with a nostalgic yet eerie atmosphere, reminding listeners that the energy of past riders lingers still. Shadowy figures are among the most frequently reported sights. Guests have described fleeting images of children appearing near the horses, standing on the platform, or riding in empty seats. Occasionally, a visitor will glimpse a child peeking out from behind a painted horse, only to vanish when approached. Others have observed groups of figures moving in patterns, as if reenacting games or races from decades past, leaving behind an unsettling sense that the carousel is alive with spirits. Cold drafts are another common phenomenon at Steel Pier Carousel. Even on warm summer days, visitors report sudden chills that seem to sweep across the platform, brushing against their skin. These cold spots often coincide with other paranormal activity: the shifting of a horse, the faint echoes of laughter, or a distant tinkle of music. Some guests have described feeling the touch of unseen hands, a light brushing on their arms or shoulders as they walk past the empty ride. These sensations leave a lasting impression, reinforcing the notion that the carousel is more than wood, metal, and painted is a vessel for residual energy from the past. Visual anomalies also contribute to the haunting atmosphere. Shadows often shift independently of natural light, and reflections in mirrors or windows sometimes reveal figures that vanish when looked at directly. Guests have reported seeing children frozen mid-ride, reaching for the sky or holding the pole of a horse, only to disappear when approached. Lights, both from the carousel and nearby boardwalk, sometimes flicker or dim, emphasizing the impression of a presence lingering just beyond sight. The layering of these experiences, movement, sound, touch, and sight, creates a hauntingly immersive environment. The carousel, while still a physical structure, becomes a stage for memories replaying themselves in ghostly form. The horses move, laughter echoes, shadows flit, and cold drafts sweep through, all blending into an experience that is both nostalgic and unsettling. Visitors often leave with a sense of awe mingled with unease, carrying the sensation that they have witnessed something beyond the ordinary. Environmental details enhance the haunting further. Seagulls sometimes scatter unpredictably above the carousel, and the wind carries faint, unexplainable sounds that blend with laughter or music. Objects like small ride props or signs may shift slightly, giving the impression of interaction with unseen hands. Even the creaking of the pier itself can seem to respond to the presence of visitors, adding subtle layers of movement and sound that reinforce the perception of ongoing activity in a space that should otherwise be still. Personal accounts of encounters are vivid. One visitor describes seeing a child's shadow pass in front of a horse, accompanied by a faint giggle that seemed to circle the platform. Another reported a carousel horse rocking back and forth, as if ridden by an invisible passenger, while the music of the ride tinkled faintly without power. Others have felt cold hands brush against them as they watched empty horses, creating a sensation that was both alarming and inexplicably tender, as if the spirits remembered the joy of riding long ago. Even in the quietest moments, Steel Pier Carousel retains a presence that makes it feel alive. Horses seem poised to move, the faint echo of music lingers in the air, and shadowy children appear and vanish along the platform. Cold drafts brush the skin, laughter drifts unpredictably, and subtle shifts in objects or shadows heighten the sense of unseen activity. The carousel is not merely a ride, it is a repository of memories, energy, and spirits from decades past. Visitors departing the carousel often describe a mixture of nostalgia, awe, and unease. Steel Pier Carousel is remembered not just as an amusement attraction, but as a space where the past continues to inhabit the present. Ghostly children, shifting horses, laughter from empty rooms, and sudden cold drafts all serve as reminders that the spirits of those who once enjoyed the ride linger, still keeping the carousel alive in spectral form long after the last visitor has left. There you have it, 25 haunted amusement parks in New Jersey with tragic pasts. From abandoned thrill rides to historic boardwalks, these parks are more than places of fun. They are vessels of tragedy, sorrow, and restless spirits. Shadowy figures, phantom laughter, and moving attractions remind us that some histories never truly rest, and some tragedies linger long after the gates close. If tonight's journey through New Jersey's haunted amusement parks sent chills down your spine, make sure to subscribe, ring the bell, and join us for more explorations of haunted locations, abandoned attractions, and the spirits that never leave. Keep your courage strong, your senses sharp, and your flashlight ready, because in New Jersey's haunted amusement parks, the past is always in motion, and the ghosts are still riding. Stay brave, stay curious, and good night.